What's up, everybody? Welcome to the State of Wild, episode 56, a regular YouTube video web series podcast thingy. My name is Meowth, and as usual, I'm joined by Roffle and Corbett. How are you guys doing tonight?
You know, I'm doing all right. I've got quite a few exciting new cards to take a look at, and the expansion is, less than a week away at time of recording this, so a lot to look forward to right now. How about you, Corb?
I'm so tired. My sleep schedule has basically been shot since the reveals happened. They dropped at 2 a.m. my time, and of course that was so awkward because it's about when I go to sleep. But I had to stay up, had to look at all the cards, had to start theory crafting. Next thing I knew, the sun was starting to come up. So yeah, a little bit off base here, but looking forward to the reveal, and hopefully, I definitely don't ruin my sleep schedule again once the expansion actually goes live.
Oh, you know you're totally going to. Why even try to pretend? Like
yeah,
you're
absolutely.
Not,
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so like we mentioned, we've got a lot of cards to talk about. We're not going to talk about all like 85 new cards because that sounds like torture for you and us. So we have a selection of cards that we're going to talk about. Stuff that's exciting, stuff that's maybe being overhyped, and stuff that's just plain damn powerful that we're going to talk about today. But before we get into all of that, we do have some housekeeping to take care of. Of course, if you do like our content, whether you're listening on YouTube or listening on podcasts, make sure that you guys hit that subscribe button, hit that like. It's a small thing, but it does support us a ton.
You can also support us by becoming a patron over at patreon.com/stateofwild. And I'd like to take a moment to thank our newest legendary tier patron, Austin Kirchhoff. So thank you for that support.
And of course, guys, if you're a patron, you get a whole bunch of perks when you come join the Discord server for the State of Wild. But everyone can join. Come join the State of Wild podcast Discord server if you want to talk about the game and everything going on in Wild Hearthstone.
Yeah, especially as we move into a new expansion, right? When you have decks to try and theory crafts you want to talk about, our Discord is the place to do that. All right, let's talk about card reveals. Let's hop right on into it. Let's talk about some Demon Hunter. We have to talk about the Demon Hunter quest, even if we don't think it's very good. It's Final Showdown. All right, so Final Showdown. The first half of the quest. Quest: draw 4 cards in 1 turn. Reward: reduce the cost of the cards drawn by 1. The second part of the quest: gain momentum. Questline: draw 5 cards in 1 turn. Reward: reduce the cost of cards drawn by 1. And the last part of the quest: close the portal. Draw 5 cards in 1 turn. Reward: Demon Slayer Curtis. Demon Slayer Curtis is a 5-mana 7/7 battle cry for the rest of the game. Cards you draw cost 2 less. So right before we went live, Roffle had this really insightful comment about this Demon Hunter quest. Do you want to repeat it for everyone to hear?
Yeah, absolutely. I love recycling jokes. I think that this deck is fantastic at reducing the cost of your fatigue cards by 2. So if that's something you're into, this is the card for you.
Yep, nothing much else to add, right? By the time you complete the quest, you've drawn through your entire deck. I'm waiting for Demon Hunter to steal Rogue Identity and become Shuffle Demon Hunter next expansion. But let's talk about Metamorphin. 1 mana, 1/2 Murloc with Taunt. What a great name. Battle Cry: if you've cast a Fel spell this turn, gain +2/+2, so the potential for a 1 mana 3/4 Taunt. So I was looking at the 1-drop odd Demon Hunters. You run Mana Burns and you run Furies. So you have 4 Fury spells in the deck. If you decide to run I-Beam, you can go up to 6. Do you guys think that 4 to 6 Fel spells is enough synergy for us to run this 1 mana 3/4 Taunt in our 1-drop Demon Hunter list?
I think it's kind of hard to evaluate. I would lean towards no, just because a lot of times, like when I'm playing Odd Demon Hunter, I want my cards to be in play. So, like, I would rather, like, the 1-drops are so powerful in that deck already. It's like you can get them up to 3/4s by the time it's turn 3 or 4 when this might be coming down anyway. So, off rip, I'd say no, but like, could be wrong. I didn't think about the density of Fel spells in the deck.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close, but probably just not quite there. Like I said, there's probably not enough density of the Fel spells, but definitely like a future card. Like, it really wouldn't take much extra to get this being, like a solid core piece of Odd Demon Hunter, because it is like really busted as like a baseline. It just doesn't have the piece around it yet.
For sure. Another card for the future. Let's talk about Fel Gorger. 4 mana 4/3 demon, battle cry, draw a Fel spell, reduce its cost by 2. So when I was talking about this card on my card review yesterday, I figured this was a pretty damn powerful piece in that Reno Demon Hunter list, because it draws you your I-Beam, it draws you your Chaos Nova, it draws you your Immolation auras, right? And it makes them cheaper so that you can clear the board while developing. I don't think it has any sort of home outside of Reno Demon Hunter right now, but I do think it's a pretty strong card in that archetype. What about you guys?
I mean, it has the word Fel on it, and that's pretty limiting right now, so it's going to go into my Jace Demon Hunter deck, but that's not a good deck. But yeah, I like the fact that it is so narrow right now could be an advantage for a deck like Reno Lock, so outside of that, probably pretty useless. It's a 4-mana 4/3.
All right, let's talk about Chaos Leech. This is another card that feels really, really situational right now, but has potential for the future. This is a 3-mana Fel spell with Lifesteal. Deal 3 damage to a minion. So baseline, it's like I-Beam, deal 3, heal 3. Outcast, deal 5 instead. Again, I thought this might be a potential inclusion in Reno Demon Hunter. I don't play a lot of the deck, so I'm not really sure, whether this makes the cut as 30 best cards, and it probably goes in Roffle's Jace Demon Hunter deck as well. I don't really know if it sees a lot of play outside of that. Probably zero play outside of that, but it's probably all right in your arena list.
Yeah, it's kind of like somewhere between, on average, it's Tidal Surge, which Tidal Surge is just a pretty good card now. So with that in mind, I think it's pretty good, but I think it's difficult to evaluate whether it'll be better than I-Beam or worth running in addition to.
All right, the next up, let's move into Druid. First off, we have a card that probably was the reason that Gibberling ended up getting nerfed. We've got Sow the Soil. This is a 1-mana nature spell. Choose one. Give your minions +1 attack, or summon a 2/2 Treant. So, with Gibberling being nerfed and the state of aggro Druids, how are we feeling about Sow the Soil?
Yeah, so it's not quite Market Lotus, but Market Lotus is one of the most busted cards in that type of archetype imaginable, so it doesn't have to be that good. But I think it's good in both like the aggro Druid deck and the potentially in the token, like the more Whispering Woods list. I have a little bit of reservations about that, just because often you're by the time like you develop minions in that particular deck in the token list, you tend to have a lot more mana flexibility anyway, because you don't really develop until it's turns 4, 5, 6 a lot of the time. And so at that point, things like branching and Lotus and Savage Roar and Arbor Up are all available to you, and so I don't know if this is necessarily needed, but it is very, very flexible. I like it a lot in that aggro Druid deck. I would have liked it a lot more if Gibberling wasn't nerfed, obviously. I think it would have been a much, much better piece in a Gibberling version of the deck. I think I just used 2 different pronunciations for Gibberling, and by the way, in like one sentence. But for now, decent card, worth a look, not 100% sold on it.
All right, next up is a card that I'm actually personally pretty excited about. 2-mana nature spell called Composting. Give your minions Death Rattle, draw a card. If you guys have been listening to the podcast, you know that I have an infatuation with that token Druid list. This card does feel a little bit slow, a little bit win more, but it also reads like, hey, deal with this board and let me draw, 7 cards, or risk dying to Savage Roars and Arbor Ups. I don't know if this makes it into the best 30, because like I said, it does rely on you having a little bit of a board, but I'm going to play it because card draw in Token Druid,
Yeah, I don't think this is very good necessarily. I'm not really sold on this one. The big reason being that obviously when you already have minions developed in a Token Druid list, you generally want to be buffing them up, protecting them, going face a lot of the time. And your opponent's already in a position where they feel constantly like if they don't clear the board, they lose a lot of the time. Like they're constantly working to clear the board. And so if they don't clear the board, you should be killing them. This feels a little bit more like Battle Rage before it got Risky Skipper, where a lot of people really liked the idea of card draw. Cheap card draw is great. But I think this is going to be a card that's a little bit overrated, just because people do imagine the upside, but I don't know in practice it really is going to work out that well.
I think especially in a deck where you already have Fungal Fortunes, it's a little bit like just redundant, and you would rather cards now are more valuable than cards later in a game where tempo is as important as it is in Hearthstone. So I would rather have cards now from Fungal Fortunes.
I'm not saying you cut Fungal Fortunes. All right, I'm saying you run this over Guess the Weight maybe. I don't know. I guess another question. This gets a lot better if Gibberling gets a nerf to rotation. Do you ever run this in Aggro Druid?
No, again, it's the same thing where I really feel like in aggro druid, you're not really tending to do a ton of trading if your board is sticking. I mean, you do a little bit, but it's also hard against aggro decks, right? Like, when are you mostly getting, like, wanting to do trades and things against aggro decks? And against aggro decks, you're also mainly looking to develop and things like that. Even something like Voracious, at least that draw is immediate and doesn't require you to already have board presence, so I don't think it fits in aggro druid necessarily as well.
Okay. Just something to think about. I think I'm going to revisit this card. I'm going to play it, first of all. I know you guys are trashing. I'm going to try it and confirm that it's trash. But I also am going to revisit this once Gibberling gets unnerved, because I think it gets a lot better with Gibberling being 1 mana. So
I'd also like to point out one last thing, which I normally don't like to acknowledge, like, counter cards to when you're evaluating a card on its own, but like with the Rise of Shaman recently, Devolve exists. And the aggro druid versus even shaman matchup used to be absolutely miserable because your way back on the board would be living mana, which would just get destroyed by Devolve. So would your buff. So like you just get obliterated by Devolve.
yeah. Well, there's also that brand new like 1 mana silence card that we'll get to today. That also exists. All right. Composting sucks. Let's talk about the next card. Let's talk about Wicker Claw. 2 mana 1/4 beast for druid. After your hero gains attack, this minion gains +2 attack. So you might be saying, what the hell, man? Why are we talking about this pack filler card? This fits in one very specific archetype, but it is very, very good in that specific archetype. It also turns out that that specific archetype is not very good, but this is a buff to that specific archetype. And of course, I'm talking about Even Druid. I mean, this card's just nuts. In Even Druid, you get Wicker Claw, you get, what was the new card? Park Panther. You get, you have Savage Combatants and the Mark of Yasharge. Like, you got some support. You've got Embiggens and stuff like that as well, if you want to go that route with Lightning Blooms. Yeah, I mean, Even Druid support card. I don't think we really need to say anything else about this. Alright, let's move on into Hunter. Let's talk about Devouring Swarm. Very, very interesting card. 0 mana Hunter spell. Choose an enemy minion. Your minions attack it, and then return any that die to your hand. I know this is a super weird card, and I've seen a lot of differing opinions. So I think this is one where we're actually going to sit down and talk a little bit about this. The potential for this card. I know, personally, I think this has a lot of potential. As like a lot weaker version of Raised Dead for Hunter. But, I mean, it's much worse than Raised Dead, but Raised Dead's also busted. So I think this card has potential in both like Reno Hunter and like tokeny Hunter styles of builds. But I'm interested in y'all's opinions, especially if they differ. Like, let's argue. Let's talk about this card.
No, I don't think I'll be arguing about this one. I think that it's a really interesting card. It's difficult to evaluate, but I think where I initially went to was that Starving Buzzard Kolkar Pack Runner deck, where your success hinges so hard on those specific cards that, like, when you get into a board situation where you need to trade them off, you feel bad and then you start falling behind. This allows you to leverage them, potentially draw a card off of the pack runner, and then get some of those minions back to hand and kind of recycle them with the buzzard as well, because you're probably getting hyenas back in addition to either the buzzard or the pack runner. So yeah, I think it definitely has potential in a deck like that, and I had a fair amount of success with it. So I think it's like with the dread scale poisonous, I don't know how serious that is, but like it has some potential.
I'm not entirely sure. I think people are generally overrating this card a little bit, where it's a little bit more situational and awkward than it might appear at first glance. That said, I will be obviously trying it in the Starving Buzzard decks, but I've seen people like just assume that it's going in like every Hunter deck, right? Like you're just throwing it in everything. And I really don't see that. I like even something like a Reno Hunter, right? Like people have this vision of being able to get back like the Zephyrus and things like that. But I really think this is going to be a little bit more awkward than people might anticipate. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm living the dream of like you play Alley Cat and like Wolpertinger on like turn 1, and then you like Devouring Swarm, and you get back 2 more Wolpertingers that summon more Wolpertingers and just draw all the cards and have some fun, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like the upside of it in those token-based lists is very, very high, right? Like the hands where it works, it's really gonna work, and the board sets where it works, it's really gonna work. But there is some awkward play order things where like if you play Buzzard first and then a whole bunch of tokens and then you play this, then the Buzzard dies off first, I assume, because it'll be attacking in order. And so you start killing off some of your more valuable pieces and things like that. So I'm not sure. A lot of your stuff also tends to have rush anyway.
Well, yeah, but those are things that are good to get back into hand, are they not? Like Buzzard coming back to hand means you get to recycle it on a turn where it's safer on the opponent's backswing. And
yeah,
then
it's true.
rush minions coming back to hand are kind of just fine because it basically, it splits their damage over 2 turns potentially.
All right. Devouring Swarm, I think maybe one of the more controversial cards, not even just here on the podcast, but just kind of in the community in general. Like Corbett said, I've been visiting and lurking in multiple Discord channels, and just seeing the conversation about this card has been very interesting because it's very split. But yeah, I don't think it's like omnipresent in every Hunter deck, specifically. Maybe the next deck that we're going to talk about, but I do really, really like it in specific builds, like we mentioned the Token Beast. But all right, we've talked enough about a card that is not Razzle Hunter. Let's talk about Defend the Dwarven District, the Hunter Quest. So, baseline, with text, deal damage with 2 spells. Reward, your hero power can target minions for the rest of the game. Second part of the quest, take the high ground, deal damage with 2 more spells. Set the cost of your hero power to 0. Uh-oh. Last part of the quest, knock him down, deal damage with 2 more spells. Reward Tavish Master Marksman, which reads 5 mana 7/7 battle cry for the rest of the game. Spells you cast refresh your hero power. Stop me if we've seen this deck before. I thought the border was like white, not green. What? I didn't know they reprinted cards.
Maybe I'm just obsessed with the Kolkar Pack Runner Starving Buzzard combination, but like that's where I initially went with this, just because I feel like you want to draw a lot of cards when you're playing this, and not just like, I mean the broke line is you just shove this in Odd Hunter because big numbers, but like big numbers going face kills your opponent before you get any like fun off of the Raza effect here. So what I think you want to do is use low damage spells, things like Wound Prey, the Hound version of that, and then both of those also summon a beast, so you get card draw off of your Buzzard. You have more fuel for the remaining pieces. You have more fuel for the like end game where you're actually refreshing the hero power and almost doing more of like a pen flinger thing. So that's where I see this going in my mind. And you're also, during that whole time, if you have a pack runner on board, in addition to drawing cards, you're you're summoning a rush minion to keep the board clear so that you can keep shipping stuff face. So that's what I want to do with this deck. I don't know about you guys, but like I'm really excited. This is one of my favorite cards, even though I was never a big fan of Raza Priest, but this looks like fun.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on everything that you just said. That Buzzard Kolka Pack Runner package seems great, just because, like, obviously, it's fuel for when you actually do complete the quest. You get to keep summoning beasts, keep drawing cards, keep playing spells, keep going face. But a lot of those spells just naturally, they're the things that push your quest. So it seems like a very natural fit. Some fun things. Professor Slate, that's a card that we might look at in this deck, funnily enough. It works really well with things like Rapid Fire and On the Hunt and Wounded Prey and so on. Bowler Shot as well. And the other one is Dragonbane. Dragonbane is a lot of damage. You thought Spawn was good with like Raza Priest? Dragonbane could pop up so hard with this at the end of the quest. But yeah, super excited for this. Really think it'd be a ton of fun, and actually might even be solid. Like I can see this being a deck that can consistently kill on this, turn 7 through 8 potentially. Like I really like this card, and I really like the look of this deck a lot.
Yeah, definitely same. My build had Buzzards, Pack Runners like you guys did. Dragon's Bane, yeah. The synergy there with the hero power. I also had stuff like Wing Blast and Kodobane. Kodobane just drawing you more cards that deal damage to minions if you absolutely need it. And then Wing Blast, just like a 1-mana spell, kill a minion. If a minion had died, cost 1, right? It's just more cheap fuel for your hero power turn. But yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. And it probably looks like a lot more fun because it's like probably still going to be worse than Razzle Hunter, right? At first glance, obviously we haven't played with it. And because it's worse, that means it's like it's fine that we play it and have fun with it, right? Because we're not playing top 2 meta decks.
Yeah, something as well to notice about the quest is that if you get like Mad Scientist or Phase Stalker, some of the secrets actually do deal damage, whether that's explosive, trap, or snipe. So if you ever want to go that route, it's not just like, cheap 1 mana deal, like, deal 1. You can actually use a secret package if you want.
Yeah.
Can you progress a quest on your turn or on your opponent's turn though?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I assumed you could, but now that I'm thinking about it, do they not light up? Well, I mean, okay, so Righteous Cause is a side quest that can progress, because if you play Dirty Rat and you summon a minion, then it will actually go over. So I'm assuming that it will also work with this.
Yeah, precedent is set there. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I saw Hunter. I did not know that damage to minions actually counted for this. I was shipping everything upstairs. This opens up the deck building possibilities so much. I'm so excited about that. So, yeah, thank you.
Oh gosh. All right. I mean, let's talk about another card that synergizes really, really nicely with Razzle. I'm gonna call it Razzle Hunter because it's just much classier name than Defend the Dwarven District Hunter. I can't even say it. Anyways, Aim Shot, 3 mana spell, deal 3 damage. Your next hero power deals 2 more damage. So it can be 3 damage to a minion or face, and then your 0 mana hero power deals 4 to a minion or face, and it also refreshes that hero power if you've already used it in a turn. Oh my god, this card is just good. It's also probably just good straight up in Odd Hunter, right? As well. Like,
yeah,
not even just the quest synergy. So, solid card.
Busted.
I mean, it's just 3 mana deal 5, right? Like, you're going to be pressing the button in Hunter eventually, so it's 3 mana deal 5.
Yeah. It's great. Great card. It wouldn't shock me if in Standard, if Face Hunter kind of gets over the tipping point. Like, I can see that becoming very, very scary. Because, I mean, it's also, like, really, really great with Barak Codebane as well, right? Like, that's often a 3 mana slot, which you have been able to run in Standard. But, again, even in Wild, like, I'm starting to look at, like, just a Face Hunter in Wild. Maybe that's a little out there, but we have so much direct damage with, Aim Shot, Kill Command, Piercing Shot. It's kind of nutty just how much damage efficiency we have. That maybe it doesn't even matter if Hunter doesn't have the greatest, like, early game tempo in that kind of, like, face deck, because if everything goes to face, then who needs board?
God, or we're gonna have to, like, bring that Hunter Smork song out of retirement. Like,
out of retirement.
Maybe. Retirement. What? Yeah.
Never win.
We haven't played that song in Wild in how long? Come on. All right, let's move into Mage. Let's talk about First Flame. This is a 1 mana fire spell that reads: deal 2 damage to a minion. Add a second flame to your hand. Second Flame is a 1 mana fire spell that deals 2 damage to a minion. It is Twin Spell without the Twin Spell keyword. This card is busted. It doesn't look like anything fancy. It's nothing flashy, but this card is busted. Ray of Frost is one of the most powerful cards in Mage. First Flame, pretty damn powerful card.
It's not that uncommon also for, like, Ray of Frost to just be 2 mana deal 2 sometimes. Like, you just kind of need that removal in situations. So, like, there are times where this is, a step up in terms of being able to remove things. So, yeah, there's definitely some potential here.
Yeah, this is a great card for all the degenerate mage decks that I like. So I love this card. It's great, super, super strong. And yeah, 0 mana deal 4 seems good.
Yeah, I mean, it's also just solid in LPG Mage. That's totally not one of your degenerate decks, right? LPG Mage couldn't be that. Yeah. I think it's just a solid removal piece in LPG Mage as well.
Yeah, I can see that, for sure.
All right, let's talk about the other fire spell that actually has so many people in the format talking about Ignite. 2 mana fire spell. It reads: deal 2 damage, shuffle and Ignite into your deck that deals 1 more damage. So if you guys haven't heard, an OTK has been spotted with this deck, if animations allow. We obviously don't know what the animation time for this is, and if you're going to be able to get all the spells off. But the idea is, just like Mizaki Mage, just like Flamewaker Mage, draw a bunch of cards, discount a bunch of spells, and then get to the point where you play Luna, or the other card that we're going to talk about next, 2 Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then you just chain Ignites off of an empty deck, and just play them until your opponent, dies. Pretty simple, right? I guess I'm going to lead with the question. First of all, is this a viable combo deck that we should be talking about? And then part 2 of that question, what does it do better than Mozaki Mage that makes you want to play it, other than the fact that it has a new card?
Okay, is it viable? It depends how generous we're being, you know. This like the word viable meow, very flexible word actually. Like that can be extended however you want. But yeah, will it be good? No, it won't be good really. Why play this over Mozaki? Well, it's more fun than Mozaki meow. There's no actual logical reason to play it over Mozaki, but it's hilarious and different, which is very important when you're talking about decks that are not particularly good, because having fun with those decks is the most important thing. But no, I'm genuinely, I guess I'm excited. Like, I kind of wish we got a little bit more than just like flow on 2 deck, where the win condition just slightly changes, but there's some pretty nasty stuff that you could do with some other cards that Mage got in this set, where apparently we're not talking about it, but there's the Mage card that makes your next fire spell cost 2 less, and you can pair that with Molten Reflection with Apprentice, and so getting those extra apprentices out becomes a lot easier. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to playing something like this.
Yeah, I think no, this is worse than Mizaki, because like you require a setup turn, right? Because you need to probably slam a Hemet in order to empty your deck. Because you can't reliably go off without Hemet. I suppose you could, but that'd be pretty limiting in terms of like the APM, because I really do think you want to probably just be playing Ignites by the time you combo off, because the Luna animation is so painfully slow sometimes. That said, like, the incremental damage increase does mean that you don't have to play that many of them. It's just, I don't know. I don't see a reason to play this over Mozaki when, I mean, you're drawing your entire deck in Mozaki anyway and just sending everything upstairs. It really feels like the same thing, but probably slower to get online.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about that 0 mana spell, by the way?
Yeah.
Corbett, let's talk about it.
Yeah. Right.
So this is the 0 mana fire spell called Hot Streak. Your next fire spell this turn cost 2 less. You can tell that I am not the degenerate mage player because I was not super excited by this card. Corbett, tell us why we should be.
Okay, Molten Reflection. That is why. Because when you play this with an apprentice, then you can play Hot Streak, and then you can play a Molten Reflection for 1 mana, potentially 0 mana, if you've already cast a flow. So all of a sudden it's been 2 mana, and you have a couple of apprentices on board, which, you know, is kind of nuts. Like, we can start doing some pretty nutty things with that. With the Exodia Mage type build, having that much mana flexibility means that realistically, if you have like a Luna and an Apprentice or 2 down, you can definitely rip through your entire deck very, very easily. Or you can just like complete the quest very, very easily and play it out with a whole bunch of apprentices and then pop off the following turn with Luna. This is a little bit like ideal situation, but I think that Mage can definitely carry enough draw where it can afford to have this as sort of its combo enabler. And, you know, a 2 mana discount on a card like Molten Reflection, which further gives you discounts with Apprentice, is pretty nutty with a card like Evocation and the Mage Quest. So this is definitely a future card, right, where it's such blatant mana cheating. We've seen Quest Mage in the past carry Elemental Evocation, which is basically the same kind of idea, where it's sort of a card that really only works with like one thing. Sometimes you could get Mana Giant out, but whatever. But I think it's fine, and you know, this could definitely be very, 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 very broken down the road in whatever flow deck comes out next expansion and so on.
Just hearing you talk about this makes me want to just say, can we go ahead and preemptively nerf Sorcerer's Apprentice, please? Yep.
I've never heard this idea. Wow, this is crazy.
Brand new ideas before we even see the decks in action. Alright, next up, let's talk about Clumsy Courier, 7 mana, 4/5 epic minion. Battlecry, cast the highest cost spell from your hand. Luna's Pocket Galaxy, anybody? Yeah?
No.
Yogg's Puzzle Box, anybody?
Yeah, you get 7 mana Yogg Box. What are you talking about?
Why not both?
Get with the program. I mean, you can only one of them can be the highest cost card in your hand. It's going to be Puzzle Box.
Well, you have 2 Clumsy Couriers. The first one casts Puzzle Box. The second one casts LPG, right? That's... I'm just kidding. No, I mean, obviously LPG Mage. Do you think that this card, like, brings Primordial Protector into, like, meta in LPG Mage list? Because now you have not only the Tutorial and Pilgrim, but you also have Primordial Protector, which can, like, draw you the LPG, which is fine because you now have Clumsy Courier and you also have Dragon Casters. Like, are we getting even beefier on the top end of these LPG Mage lists?
I'm not 100% sure you play this in LPG Mage.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. No, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, we've already largely cut Dragoncaster. A lot of the times people have cut Dragoncaster. And while Dragoncaster's not always active, and this is, Dragoncaster is also a mana less, right? There's just like a little bit enough awkwardness where Mage doesn't really have a ton of really great high cost spell targets in that deck, and I think that it's just generally not going to be that consistent. Whereas, you know, you're a lot more likely to have Pilgrim have the LPG in the deck, or just cast the LPG from hand anyway, than be in a situation where you actually have the LPG and the Clumsy Courier, and you want to play the Courier, and it's much better than just playing the LPG.
I think that something that's often overlooked about Tutorial, and the reason that I like it so much as the option there, is because it's effectively net one card over both Courier and Dragon Caster, because it's pulling it from your deck. So it's essentially drawing a card and casting it, which is a really big difference, even though it is, you know, 2 or in this case 1 mana difference. Like the fact that you don't want to draw Pocket Galaxy, because that means then the burden is on you to draw one of those other pieces in order to cast it for free, which at that point, like, you're just playing, what was that? You're playing an Arcane Tyrant when you play Dragoncaster. Is that good? Like, or in this case, you're playing like a slightly better Arcane Tyrant, which have been cut from those type of decks for quite a while now, and I don't think that's good. I think people focus too much on the 0 mana costs that they see when they play those cards with Luna's Pocket Galaxy, and they don't focus on the stats, and like, really what you're getting there is a 0 mana cost on the minions, not the spell, because you would just you're playing the spell anyway in most cases.
You guys are breaking.
We've just like we've just destroyed me out here.
Yeah.
That was,
I'm playing it in LPG Mage. Screw you guys. I'm playing it. I think it's good. I don't know. Maybe
I think it's fantastic for cheating out my Yogg boxes. That's all I am concerned about.
I think the Arcane Tyrant comparison really does
No, I'm still baffled by the fact that you think people are, like, you made the statement that people are cutting Dragoncasters. And like, I have never seen that. And that feels blasphemous to me. Like, I
have never been happy about playing Dragoncaster even on turn 6, because it means that I drew Luna's Pocket Galaxy, which means I have 1 fewer card in hand than I would have.
am okay playing Dragoncaster because that means I'm playing my Pocket Galaxy on turn 5 or turn 6. While not losing insane amounts of tempo, because I at least get the 4/4.
Well, I think even if you think, like, if you want to argue about Caster, that's fine. But I think Caster is better than this by, like, a bit.
Well, I was never even considering cutting Caster, which is why I'm like kind of high on this card. Like,
well, the reason we cut Caster, right, in LPG is just because how many big spells do we have? We only have Galaxy and sometimes a Kazakus spell, like very rarely a Malagos spell. That's like very heavy, like a Flame Strike, but there aren't really a ton of big spells that are that amazing in LPG right now, and so I think Caster, you know, I think Caster's pretty easy to cut. I think it's one of the weakest cards. Yeah,
I feel like Caster is like one of the only ways that you beat like Darkglare Warlocks, though, right? With stuff like cheating out a Kazakus Potion or a Malagos Flame Strike, and so I don't know. I've never considered cutting Dragoncaster. This is news to me, which means my evaluation of Clumsy Courier is completely off the mark. All right. Anyways, let's move on before I make myself look even more dumb. Celestial Ink Set. This is the Mage Weapon. 2 mana, 0/2. After you spend 5 mana on spells, reduce the cost of a spell in your hand by 5. I was not baited by this in LPG Mage. Thank you very much. This is like a big spell mage card, right? This is.
It doesn't have to be necessarily. I mean, it cheats out a big spell, right? But like, you can use little spells to ramp it up as well. That's, I mean,
that is awkward though. Like,
right, because you could whiff.
you start making these like horrible coin flips where if you use cheaper spells to get it out. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty blatant mana cheating, right? Like you can definitely go that big spell route, where you're trying to get down to like a 5-mana box and things like that, and that's pretty nasty. So we're really wanting to pair it probably with like 5-mana spells in particular, like 5-mana spells and then big spells that we're trying to cheat out. So it's very easy to activate. But I guess like Roffle said, you could do like 3s and 2s and things like that.
No, I think that 5 is probably your like lower bound, just because like that. First of all, you could use things like Star Scryer and the spell fetches to consistently get them. 5 is a breakpoint if you decided to run Dragoncaster at the top end as well. So like you get some benefits from the 5, and then like you said, I think you just want to spend 5 mana on a spell, reduce something to either 0 or up to 5, and then play that on the next turn for a big tempo swing. So you're it's kind of a tempo mortgage. So you're giving up 2 mana and your turn early in the game so that you can spike with something big later. So it's definitely interesting. Mana cheat, tends to be pretty strong, so I could see it being useful.
Also, huge thing, refreshing spring water buff.
Oh no, yeah, you're right. You're right. That means you have to be running like what 15, 16 5-cost spells in your deck.
That was my hesitation as well. Is that like you need a high density of spells in order to make that pay off? But if it does, oof.
Well, I mean, it's really good with like Apexis Blast and Springwater and things like that. But yeah, like you were saying, I don't know if like big spell mage, literally like nothing but big spells. Right. I don't know if that's the move.
Yeah, I don't know that there's a payoff strong enough for that.
Double ink set, double flow, and then everything else 5+. Right? That's how this works.
Yeah. Absolutely. Get those puzzle blocks is cheap. Nice.
But yeah, Inkset, nice little buff to Big Spell Mage, but Big Spell Mage was nowhere close to being competitive. So, I mean, nice buff. And I guess Clumsy Courier also a nice buff to Big Spell Mage, right? If you're running like 8 5+ cost spells in your deck, right? Cast them for free. Go for it.
Yeah. Throw in your Arcane Tyrants too.
Yeah. And I guess those are all Druid cards, right? Umbral Owl and the 4/3/5, whatever. Anyways. Let's get to the real class. Let's talk about Paladin. Paladin getting some nutty cards. We've talked about a lot of them, but let's talk about some more that got revealed in the card dump. So a card that I think has a lot of potential, but probably not going to see play in the current kind of wild metagame. But City Tax. This is a 2-mana tradable spell with lifesteal. Deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So like a one-sided Spirit Lash, right?
Yeah.
Do you like this and stuff like the Uther OTK decks or like the slower kind of combo-y Paladin decks in the format? They don't really exist competitively right now, but they're always there, right? Uther OTKs and Holy Wrath OTKs and stuff like that. How are you feeling about City Tax?
As somebody that plays those decks a lot, the biggest downside to it is that it doesn't like actually draw you a card. Like you can use the tradable and that's fine. Maybe tradable's a little bit better than I'm thinking, and like the flexibility of it makes it worth. But like, I like cards that either prevent me from dying, which is timeout, so completely prevent me from drawing, or drawing cards like I just cycle aggressively through my deck. And but I mean, I can definitely see it. That was my first thought as well. The other thing is that it like has some cute effectiveness with Kangor and I don't know, in general, lifesteal skills well with spell damage. Not the Paladin is really well known for that, but like, I mean, we've seen a very similar card in the past with Spirit Lash, and it was good.
Yeah, I'm kind of just looking at this as a replacement for Pyromancer in those type of decks, where your quality and then City Tax, it seems better, I think, than Pyro.
I mean, Libram of Justice would be pretty bonkers with that as well. So if you're running a slower Libram deck, which I think that a lot of the Uther OTKs want to be on the Libram package anyway. Like that, yeah, you're right. That's just better than Wild Pyro because it's one-sided.
All right, let's move on to talking about maybe one of the best cards in the set. Spoiler alert, but Alliance Bannerman. 3 mana 2/2, Battlecry, draw a minion. Give minions in your hand +1/+1. Bodybuilder fans rejoice. Yet another hand buff card. I know I'm high on this card. I feel like a lot of other people are. What about you two?
It's 1 mana more than Grime Street Enforcer, Outfitter. Uh, but I'd happily pay 1 mana to draw a card in specifically a minion in hand buff Paladin. Based on the wording too, it looks like it might buff the minion that you draw. Like
It will, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, why wouldn't you? Like I know it's 3 mana and that's a little bit slower, but like there have been builds of hand buff Paladin even when it was one of the strongest decks that went fairly long. So like yeah, and it's not going to be a 2/2 when it comes down most of the time anyway.
Yeah, this card's completely broken. I think it's going to be a staple in a lot of Paladin decks. I don't think it's just the pure hand buff that we've been used to seeing. I think that hand buff got so much support that we're going to start seeing that sort of blend with the Call to Arms decks. But, you know, we'll save that for a little bit later. But, yeah, super, super strong hand buff. Paladin got so much support. I guess Ixar must have really liked the journey he had into Wild with all that hand buff, right? That's how this happened.
Oh,
So-
no.
The one thing I'll say about this card is there was a time, like in the early days of hand buff Paladin, I was happily running Howling Commander in that deck. And this is just that, but like much better. For those of you that don't know, because why would you? Howling Commander was a 3 mana 2/2 that drew a Divine Shield minion from your deck. So this is just a better card than that. And I was like already running that. And so, yeah. Very good.
All right, let's talk about maybe some other hand buff Paladin support. Let's talk about Catacomb Guard. 3 mana 1/4. That one attack is relevant because Crystology exists. Okay, just keep that in mind. But it's a 3 mana 1/4 with Lifesteal. Battlecry, deal damage equal to this minion's attack to an enemy minion. So turn 1 Crystology, turn 2 buff, turn 3 deal 2 heal 2 at the minimum, right? If you're looking at this in hand buff Paladin. We're seeing a lot of cards with lifesteal as well. We know that Paladin has this heal sub theme. It's pretty good in that deck, assuming that there is a deck of some sort out there. But I think we're just going to focus on this card in terms of hand buff Paladin. How are we feeling about Catacomb Guard?
I think you treat the Battlecry like it's a Rush Divine Shield, which is phenomenal in hand buff Paladins, right? Those two things, lifesteal and rush, accept hand buffs like extraordinarily well. That's part of why Crab Rider was so good in the deck. Why you're running something like the 4-mana charge guy. Like those things scale out of control with hand buff. So I can't see that not being the case here as well. Like if you would you run a 3 mana 3/6 rush lifesteal, or like would you be okay playing that card that like doesn't take damage on its first attack? That's pretty silly, right? Maybe I'm overrating it, but like
No, you're not overrating it.
Yeah.
First of all, we have to pull one out for Dispatch Kodo. RIP the Hunter 4-mana 2/4. But yeah, Catacomb Guard. Super busted. Super busted. This card just kind of solos aggro a lot of the time, where it's going to be like I feel like the bare minimum that we're going to be seeing a lot of the time is like buffing it a couple times. So it's a 3-mana 3/6 deal 3, and then this just bodies aggro. Like they're probably going to have to take double trades into this a lot of the time, and so it's like going to heal for 9. It just scales out of control. Super strong card. It doesn't have rush, but it's still recovery onto the board, which hand buff Paladin loves. And especially given like the fact that hand buff Paladin decks have gotten a little bit slower, with the nerfs to things like First Day, with Crab Rider getting nerfed, more lifesteal and more recovery becomes even more important in that deck, because it did lose ground against those more heavy burn aggressive decks. And so this is like a perfect fit. Love it.
All right, so keep an eye out for Catacomb Guard. And then High Lord 4 Dragon, we got to talk about it. 6 mana 5/5 Divine Shield legendary minion for Paladin. After a friendly minion loses Divine Shield, give a minion in your hand +5/+5. So we just poured one out for Dispatch Kodo, so now we pour out an entire bottle for Don Honcho. Poor guy.
Yep.
Absolutely poor guy. I will preface this by saying, Sir Bodybuilder himself said day one Golden Craft. Do we agree with him? Yay or nay?
I think if nothing else, this is the best iteration of a 4-dragon that we've seen so far. Just because he has reasonable stats off the rip, and his effect is repeatable and extraordinarily powerful. It counts for his own divine shield too, I imagine. And
Yeah.
I no leaks, no spoilers, but like when Corb mentioned Call to Arms and some of these buff type decks, like a lot of those minions that you're pulling out, I haven't seen his list yet, but a lot of minions that you're pulling out of that or that you want to be are divine shield minions. So can you imagine a divine shield or like a Call to Arms into like double Annoyatron Righteous Protector, slam a High Lord for dragon behind it, and you're just like, well, now my lone remaining Righteous Protector is at 15-15 or 16-16. Like that's has the potential to be outrageous. The concern I have is its mana cost, but other than that, it's certainly a high quality card.
Yeah, definitely worth a look. Not 100% sure, again, if it'll make it into the cut. It kind of feels that sort of Valinir type slot in a lot of the hand buff decks. Is sort of like the late game bomb that's more of a tech somewhat against like the Reno decks or Odd Warrior. Man, Odd Warrior is probably not going to love not going to love seeing this. But yeah, kind of insane. Scales really well with charge in particular, out of everything. So like a horse rider might be able to become like a 15-15 very, very quickly, which is, or 15-14, which is kind of nasty. But yeah, not sure, because 6 mana is a lot of mana. So we'll just see how the meta looks probably, just because it is more of a tech choice for those types of slower decks, and a little less good against, the majority of the aggro and combo stuff.
Yeah. All right, hear me out. You play the Call to Arms, you coin out 4-dragon, turn after you play a Blood Knight, remove like 5 divine shields. So Blood Knight becomes like a whatever she becomes. And that buffs your Horse Rider, your Leroy in hand by 25-25. Like, does that not sound like the dream?
You got to remember to Blessed Champion the Horse Rider Meowth on turn
Well, we don't
8.
run
That's
Blessed Champion. We have that new 5-mana 5/5 that gives it Wind Fury. All right.
Oh, true. Yeah, we got to save that. Yeah.
True.
Yeah,
we don't need Blessed Champion anymore. Blessed Champion outdated. I mean, it was outdated to begin with, but now it's outdated. All right.
So the thing about running Blood Knight in that deck is that it just completely loses to this next card.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to Priest. I think this is a Roffle giving me a sign. Let's talk about Shard of the Nuru. So when we initially started talking about this expansion, we talked about how busted tradable is going to be on tech cards, right? We talked about it with the Rust-Rot Viper or whatever the weapon tech is. And I think this is them taking it to the absolute next level. All right, they took a 4-mana card in Mass Dispel. Silence all enemy minions, draw a card. This is a 1-mana spell with tradable. Silence all enemy minions. I don't know if this makes it into like the main 30 of every priest list. It probably doesn't make it into like arena priest list. It probably makes it into the 30 of stuff like Big Priest and like Inner Fire Priest and like anything that requires minions. Like this card is probably just nuts. And it has tradable, right? So you don't even have like the downside of drawing it in bad matchups because you could just spend that 1 mana and draw a better card. Like in Big Priest, that's really important because you can draw towards those palm readings and those shadow essences. So yeah, Shard of the Nuru. I saw this one. I was a little bit mystified as to why this card, was printed in the state that it's going to be printed in. But I think this card is pretty busted.
Yeah, I think it absolutely deletes 2 cards at the same time. Like, why would you run Silence when you can pay 1 mana more for Silence Everything? Why would you run Mass Dispel for, like, to gain a card in hand? That's not worth. You can just, use the flexibility of tradable and the fact that it's only costs 1 mana. I think it even has potential in Reno Priest, just because it's a low-cost spell that's at worst fuel for your Anduin pings, and gives you Pen Flingers. It causes 0 mana with palm reading, so it's like I think it's worth considering in that deck too. If if we get into a a metagame where silence is more relevant.
Yeah, if it was like a deck that, did a whole bunch of buffs to a whole bunch of its minions every turn, that would be quite good to, be able to silence that. But yeah, so I think you look at it in both like Reno and Big for sure. It is confusing why it costs 1, but you know what? Let's just roll with it. Again, this is like basically the perfect kind of card that you kind of want if you're playing the deck to have tradable, just because there are matchups where it's not going to be very good, but there are lots of matchups where it's going to be very good. And yeah, the fact it's so cheap works well with Spawn, Penflinger, things like that. I think it'll be good enough in the Reno Priest, potentially as well.
Yeah. All right, cards busted, facts established. Let's talk about some other new cards. Let's talk about Void Touched Attendant, a new 1-mana 1/3 for Priest. Both heroes take 1 extra damage from all sources. Before we go any further on this card, can we go ahead and dispel some myths here that I was seeing in some Discord communities of people cutting Spawn of Shadows for this card? Just put that to rest really, really quickly. Let's not do that. I think dealing 6 is greater than dealing 3. And this card's also garbage against other aggressive decks, because you don't want to tempo it out on turn 1. Anyways, Shadow Priest, right? We've been talking a lot about this Benny Shadow Priest list in Wild, as Roffle still looks confused by my comment about Void Touch Attendant beating Spawn. Don't worry, we're putting it to bed. It doesn't exist. It's okay.
I was more confused about why you wouldn't tempo this out on turn 1. I think that's one of its benefits, is that, like, I would maybe consider running it in addition to Spawn, not instead of. I think instead of is absurd, but like...
the pirates dealing 3 damage and 2 damage to you instead of...
What are your other alternatives on turn 1 against those decks, right? It's anti-aggro for when you need it, and burst when you need that. I don't know. I'm no Reno Priest
I'd rather
gamer.
just play an Orshari Cleric or just play AoE on turn 2 or turn 3 and not worry about it. But anyways, Shadow Priest. Aggro Shadow Priest with Benedictus. I'm assuming loves this card. Absolutely loves it. Do you like this card? Do you think it sees play anywhere else?
I think it probably sees play in that deck because, having played it quite a bit myself, you're pretty light on 1-drops. So you just want something down on turn 1. Like, I was running Shadow Bomber for a while as just a card that I could play turn 1. Now, with Undertaker Leper Gnome, it maybe is less relevant. But, like, if you think about your Twilight's Call, I don't think you want to run Rally in that deck because it's not a very good card. But if you were running Rally, you could theoretically get this, Kobold Sand Boy and the 3-mana version of that, and your Death Rattles do a decent amount of damage off of that, as well as your hero power. I don't know. It's just a kind of seems like an okay card in that deck and anything aggressive, but like you better be ahead.
Just a short comment. Rally isn't a shadow spell, right? So you can't even run it.
True. You couldn't run the Rally, but I think you're happy to cut that card anyway because it's bad.
Oh, I just realized how funny this is against Dark Lord will look. Like, if you play it on turn 1 and they end up taking so much damage, they might be able to get out the old turn 2 Molten Giant, I think. But yeah, I haven't really thought too much about like the aggro Shadow Priest type stuff, just because I don't really believe in it. Like, I'm not really a huge fan, I think. But I haven't really looked properly. I think in that archetype, it'll obviously be quite good. And, I don't think you want it anywhere else, though. But it is good of, like, the Twilight's Call and Rally type stuff as well, like, even outside the Shadow Priest. So, I don't know. It's fine. It's a lot of damage, potentially, if you're ahead.
I mean, I will say, I was in the boat of, I'm not going to believe in the Aggro Priest list. Like, I'm not going to get baited by it again. But then they printed a bunch of cards. And I'm just like, shit, dude, it looks like it might be real. So, like, I don't know. I'm believing in it again, even though I said I wasn't going to.
Not again.
I know.
I never said I wasn't going to, so I'm happy to believe in it again.
Were you a believer the first time? That's the real question.
Hey, I've been a follower since that first time you played Egg Priest, and I've been just all in on it. So, like, anything that can get me close to that, I'm happy.
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about all of the other Shadow Priest support. Let's talk about Shadowcloth Needle, 2-mana 0/3 weapon. After you cast a shadow spell, deal 1 damage to all enemies, lose 1 durability. So I was theory crafting some Shadow Priest. I don't know, like, how many spells do you need to be happy with this card in your deck? Like, in the theory crafted Shadow Priest list, I had 9. Like 9 to 10. Are we happy with like 10 shadow spells? Like as enough of a density to have this active pretty frequently?
I think so. Like the problem though is a lot of the time the shadow spells are board clears. Like I don't know exactly what theory craft you had me off, but I thought about this card in Reno Priest. And then when I actually realized, I was like, oh, okay, so we're running a lot of shadow spells. We got like 7, 8, 9. Like, it's pretty good. And then I went through the list and I was like, oh, it's Mass Hysteria, it's Scream, it's the other Hysteria, it's Spirit Lash. It's a whole bunch of stuff that already clears the board. And so the effect off the weapon doesn't really end up doing anything a lot of the time. It does work well with Visions and Thrive and Raise Dead. But apart from that, almost all your actual shadow spells just clear the board regardless. So a very powerful card. Just don't know where exactly we want it. I guess maybe Big Priest potentially because things like Essence are a shadow spell, but I need to have a good look through the card pool and the deck list before knowing one way or the other.
Yeah, I will say in my theory crafted version, I don't know if Roffle you've done anything about this, but mine ran 10 spells. It was double Raise Dead, double Mind Blast, double Visions, double Thrive, double Twilight's Call. And like I was hesitant on the Shadow Visions, right? I didn't know if I had space for those, so it might be 8 instead of 10. But it felt like the reason that Aggro Priest is so weak is that it just kind of folds to other board-based decks, right? Because they are so effective at keeping you off the board, so you don't get any damage in. I don't know if you need this now that you have the Benedictus hero power, but it felt as like another way because this damages the enemy face, right? It's not just enemy minions, so like it is still technically doing face damage. It does have attack 1, So I'm considering it in my theory crafts. I'm just not sure, It's on that edge, and like I could totally see myself cutting it.
I'm gonna be honest. I was running more spells than you were. It sounds like, and I wasn't considering this just because I don't want to allocate 2 mana to that when I'm not going face. 2 mana deal 3 is less than 2 mana deal 5, so that was my thought process on it.
Roffle, I think you're getting Hunter and Priest mixed up, right? First the Razzle Hunter, and now this.
Oh, you just blew my mind. They've completely swapped. Yeah. Like with Benedictus, Priest is the face deck, and like Hunter is the Raza deck.
What do you guys think? So, what do you guys think about it in Big Priest? Like, I'd be interested in that.
I think you're running Palm Reading, Shadow Visions, Spirit Lash. You're running a lot of shadow cards,
Thrive,
Shadow
Essence,
like you said. Yeah,
Hysteria.
You're running a lot of shadow spells in Big Priest. So I think it's perfectly reasonable there, just because, like, the other thing you're doing with 2 mana is developing a Shadow Essence anyway, which, I don't know, this kind of does something similar in terms of at least it gives you, upcoming removal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I could see it being in Big Priest, right? I mean, Big Priest already had the, like, 1 flex spot that was, like, it was different in, like, everybody's list. So, like, would you cut, like, Condemn, maybe, for this? Or...
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, like, it just makes things like Visions and Thrive much better. Even, like, Palm Reading, right? Like, in the early game. Makes it a lot cleaner. So,
yeah. And it gets around Counterspell. Well, I guess...
Yeah.
Not really. Because you have to cast the spell, right? Wait, if it gets countered, I'm assuming it doesn't trigger the weapon, right?
It probably won't trigger. Yeah.
Anyways. Alright, let's talk about Twilight Deceptor. 2 mana, 2/3 Priest card. Battle Cry. If a hero took any damage this turn, draw a Shadow spell. So if you play a 1-drop in the Shadow Priest, and then you, like, punch your opponent in the face, and then you play this on turn 2 and draw a card. It's pretty good. Specifically, it's a Shadow spell card. I think this is solid in the Shadow Priest list. Are you guys thinking about this card maybe in Reno Priest? Is that ever something that, like, you think about? Or is it maybe, like, 2 win more, like, on those Spawn of Shadows, like, pop-off turns?
I mean, like tutored card draw like this is always worth considering,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know if it's a 30 best card because there are a lot of good cards in Arena Priest.
Yeah, I don't like it in Reno Priest because you need to either have board presence, which you don't have a lot of the time, or that's it, right? Like, like because you're not going to be able to take damage. So like, it's only drawing a card if you actually have board presence, and yeah.
All right, so Shadow
Or
Priest
or,
on the
or,
card.
or like yeah, or after your Anduin, in which case that's like so niche that yeah.
All right, one last Shadow Priest support card that we have to talk about, right? 3 mana, 3/4 Siphoned. After you cast a shadow spell, deal 2 damage to each hero. All right, so Shadow Priest support card. We were just talking about how many spells you need for the weapon to be active and worth running. How many spells you need to be running to make Siphoned worth? How many spells are you happy activating the Siphoned with? Just one? Like if you play Siphoned and then cast a Raise Dead, are you happy?
No, I'm killing my opponent with this card in 1 turn.
Oh, please elaborate.
So Radiant Elemental, Test Subject, Embalming Ritual, Binding Heal, and Forbidden Words. Is that the one? The one that kills based on mana cost? And then you just cycle that infinitely.
Was that
Well, there
3,
you go.
5, 6? That's a 6 mana kill.
Theoretically, it could be 4 mana because you could get the whole. You could get it on turn 4 if they all die into a rally as well.
Well then. Alright, this is
Yeah.
why we added Roffle to the podcast. This is exactly the reason why. Not the fact that you're an awesome guy and we enjoy having you on. You have, insightful comments
I can't
everywhere else.
I can't take credit for this. The first person I saw bring it up was Concerned Mom. The rally came a little bit later. But yeah, it's that Corb draw engine has some potential, and then instead of Topsy, you just use the 0 mana kill a guy, and you effectively get to cycle indefinitely into this or into this and then follow it up with a rally if you.
So we can't actually do this though, right? Because we need to cast. We need 15 loops of this to actually kill the opponent.
Yeah.
In addition to playing, it's like 4 or 5. It's like 3 cards per cycle, right?
Yeah. The Void.
So, yeah.
There was some consideration for the Void Touched Apprentice or Attendant being the 1 mana card that you bring back with Rally. So that way you're dealing 3 mana
More
or 3
damage.
damage each time, and you have to do fewer cycles. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be feasible to pull off, but
Roffle's
Yeah,
gonna try.
I think this is definitely. I think it's a deck that it's kind of cool when this sort of stuff breaks, right? Like these infinite combos and things like that. But we are sadly playing Hearthstone, which means we are limited by rope. I don't actually think it would be all that good even without the animation being an issue. But I really think this isn't. I mean, maybe you can use it when you're versing the computer in solo modes.
Easy Innkeeper wins.
Yeah, yeah. But apart from that, not really sure.
Okay, besides the meme combo, do you think this is worth running in that Shadow Priest list?
My concern is it's a little bit slow because you're paying often 2 to 3 mana for your shadow spells, with the exception being Raise Dead.
Yeah.
So it has potential, but I would imagine it needs to stick.
So we're not happy playing Spider Tank with upside if it survives, right? It's not enough immediate impact.
Nah.
I would lean towards no.
All right. But we are getting 2, potentially 3 brand new Shadow Priest support cards here, in addition to Benny. Man, I'm on board. I said I wasn't going to get baited, and I think I've gotten baited. I'm going to be trying this on day 1, and I'm going to be really sad when it sucks. But I'm going to do it to myself. We're doing it. All right, let's move into Rogue. We have to talk about this Rogue quest, even though it's the Rogue quest. Find the Imposter questline. Play 2 SI7 cards. So for those of you guys that aren't in the loop, so they have printed a bunch of SI7 tribal cards. So not only SI7 Agent, 3 mana, 3/3 combo, deal 2 damage, was the original one. Then they printed the neutral SI7 Infiltrator, the Destroy a Secret that you get off of Zeph all the time. And then here in this expansion, they've printed, I believe, 5 more? 4 class ones and 1 neutral. So it's like a tribe of minions. So you have to play 2 of them to activate this quest. And once you do, you get a Spy Gizmo to your hand. And these Spy Gizmos are really, really fancy spare parts. Okay, so you have Fizz Flash Distractor. Return an 1 mana spell. Return an enemy minion to its owner's hand. They can't play it next turn. So basically like Reflector Mage for those of you guys that play Magic. Alright, the second spare part / Spy Gizmo is Spy-O-Matic. It's a 1 mana 3/2 mech. Battle Cry, look at 3 cards in your opponent's deck. Pick one to put on top. So some opponent deck disruption there. Noggin Fog Generator. 1 mana spell. Give a minion +2 attack and stealth. Hidden Gyro Blade. 1 mana 3/2 weapon. Death Rattle. Throw this at a random enemy minion. And Undercover Mole. 1 mana 2/3 beast with stealth. After this minion attacks, add a random card to your hand from your opponent's class. So a 1 mana Shaku. So yeah, a lot of talking. Okay, now let's get back to the quest. You play 2 SI7 cards. Reward add a Spy Gizmo to your hand. Then you progress to the second part of the quest, which is Learn the Truth. Play 2 SI7 cards. Add a Spy Gizmo to your hand. And you get to the final part of the quest. Play 2 more SI7 cards. Reward Spy Master's Scabs. Spy Master's Scabs is a 5 mana 7/7 battle cry. Add 1 of each Spy Gizmo to your hand. Alright. All of this being said, I'm going to run through the SI7 cards super, super quick. We're not going to talk too in-depth about them, but just read them out loud so you guys know kind of what we're referencing here. We have SI7 Extortion. It's a 1 mana tradable spell. Deal 3 damage to an undamaged character. So that can be minion or hero. You have SI7 Operative. 3 mana 2/4 Rush. After this attacks a minion, gain stealth. You have SI7 Informant. Battlecry, gain +1/+1. 4 mana 3/3. Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each SI7 card you've played this game. And then you have SI7 Assassin. 7 mana 4/4. Cost 1 less for each SI7 card you've played this game. Combo, destroy an enemy minion. So it's like Vilespine Slayer. For those of you guys that played back when that was super popular. And then we have the neutral card, SI7 Skulker, 2 mana 2/2 with stealth, Battle Cry. The next card you draw costs 1 each, or costs 1 less. Only happens once. It's not an each turn effect. Oh my god, I talked a lot for a card that's probably going to see 0 wild play. I'm done talking. What do you guys feel about this card?
I'll play it, but it won't be good. I don't know. Like, I just want to have fun with the gizmos. That's about it.
I like that they're doing it. It's more like a Yu-Gi-Oh kind of style, like the whole tribal aspect, and it's kind of cool they're sort of retroactively adding that with some old SI7 cards, but yeah, it's not really, like, it's a lot for...
It's a lot for a card that's going to see 0 play, so...
Yeah.
Alright, yeah. I'm sorry for those of you guys that just had to listen to the last 2 minutes of me rambling. Alright, let's move into Maestra of the Masquerade. So this is a 2 mana rogue legendary, 2 mana 3/2. You start the game as a different class until you play a rogue card. Talk about the most Hearthstone-y card that's ever been printed in Hearthstone. So basically, for those of you guys that don't know, the way that this works is you will queue into a game. It'll say Jaina versus like Garrosh. All right, you're playing against a warrior. You mulligan for, I don't know, Odd Warrior, because that's the meta. Okay, this is a bad example. But you're gonna mulligan for a warrior, and then you're gonna play, I don't know, a Shiny Finder on turn 2, and then all of a sudden you become a rogue. So basically you screw with your opponent's mulligan. It's kind of the big, I don't know, kind of thing with this card. I'm actually very intrigued by it. I know it seems like a meme, but how much are wild games decided by the mulligan? And how valuable is screwing with your opponent's mulligan?
I mean, I generally default to assuming that my opponent is trying to do something as fast as possible, so I don't think it changes that much. I think it matters at higher legend ranks when you can more accurately predict your opponent's deck. But, like, yeah, a lot of games are, you know, not necessarily decided, but, like, heavily impacted by the mulligan, so it could be worth considering.
Yeah, I think it's probably not good enough. Like, I think the whole like mind game aspect, we've kind of seen this sort of, thing be a bit overrated previously, whether it's just not quite a one-for-one comparison, but a card like Chameleos, for example, was a card that a lot of people valued a lot because they thought about the insight that they were getting was valuable. But I think the problem with Chameleos was it just wasn't very good, and the problem with this isn't very good by itself either. And so yeah, I think this is not going to see any real constructive play. I'm sure it'll be very fun, and a lot of people will like it, particularly at more casual ranks. But I don't think it's going to make its way into any meta deck or anything.
All right. Last question before we move on. This is targeted specifically towards Roffle. Is there some sort of combo that you can take advantage of, right? Where like it's only works if you, because like if you play this card and you turn out to be like Jaina, when you play stuff like Wandmaker or Venomous Scorpid, you're going to discover mage spells. Is there some sort of combo where, like, if you get a specific spell from another class as a rogue, that you can pull off some really weird OTK?
No. I mean, wouldn't it just be better to like burgle things at that point? The one thing I could see being useful for this is 29 neutral cards, Maestra of the Masquerade, and Wormrest Purifiers, so that you're just like a neutral Renounced Darkness rogue.
That turns
There
it
you
into,
go.
does it turn it into Paladin cards or just cards of your class? What does
Of your
Umbra's
class.
Purifier do? Okay.
So it's a 2-step Renounced Darkness.
And there's a YouTube video, Roffle. There we go. Like,
All right, sounds good. Okay, the next card is something that I wanted to force upon the show, even though Corbett and Roffle both told me it was really, really bad. But I wanna talk about it. It's Loan Shark, 3-mana, 3/4 beast. Battlecry, give your opponent a coin. Death Rattle, you get 2. All right, if you're just playing this as a 3-mana card, it sucks. But if you can take advantage of that Death Rattle multiple times with stuff like the next spell that we're going to talk about, with a Necrium Blade, with an Unearthed Raptor, like, if you proc this a couple times, things get pretty silly because you can cheat a lot of mana, in that mid game. And like I said, on the surface, like, without doing anything, Loan Shark is bad. But if you can abuse this fairly consistently, I think this is something to maybe keep an eye on. And both Roffle and Corbett have kind of dismissed me and this card, but I'm going to be playing it. I'm going to try to figure out a way to break Loan Shark. I'm going to have some fun with some coins. But that being said, let's talk about our next spell. We got Sketchy Information, 3-mana spell. Draw a Death Battle card that costs 4 or less. Trigger its Death Battle, like a Loan Shark. But outside of that, what else are we using Sketchy Information for? There's like Cobalt Illusionist, maybe.
I think Cobalt Illusionist I think is the best hit, because you could theoretically prep this on turn 1 to get your Illusionist and get either a big minion down, or you could use it in the Malygos combo theoretically, but that would require you to have Malygos in hand. You could get a 3-mana Mally.
yeah, those are the two big homes. I was actually like very scared about this card until I realized that you can't really run Necrium Blade in like the violet in the what's it called again? The 4-mana thing, the Cobalt Illusionist. You can't really run the Necrium Blade because it'll trigger off this sometimes, and that's really, really bad. Whereas, like, and that takes away a lot of the power of the Illusionist, right? Like, being able to go Blade and the swing and then play the Illusionist on curve. So, yeah, I think if it was just Minion, I would be very, very high on this and think the Big Rogue could be, like, a real disgusting Hearthstone deck. But without the Blade, I think it's a lot less scary.
So here's the thing, though. Counterfeit Blade isn't actually a Death Rattle card. It gains a Death Rattle with the battle.
Oh, no, I mean Necrium Blade.
No,
sorry.
I know. So I think you just let out Necrium Blade for the Counterfeit Blade in that case, because this has the higher upside.
Yeah, definitely. You definitely like swap out for the 4-mana weapon, but it's much worse, right? Necrium Blade is so much better at being able to get the Illusionist on curve like that.
I suppose so, yeah.
You guys are out here trying to play unfair Hearthstone, and I'm over here saying like, if I play this card and I get a Nerubian egg, and then like, is that enough value? And like, if I run enough death rattles, it's okay if I run like a Necrian Blade and hit that every once in a while. Yeah, I'm over here playing fair Hearthstone. That's my problem over here. I'm gonna run this with my Loan Shark card, okay, and we're gonna have some fun. All right, let's stop talking about potentially bad cards. Let's talk about some shaman cards. Let's start with Auction House Gavel. 2-mana 2/2 weapon. After your hero attacks, reduce the cost of a Battlecry minion in your hand by 1. So this competes with your whatever the 2-mana 2/2 elemental is called. That draws you a weapon, right? This is competing for that weapon slot in all of your shaman decks. How are we feeling about Auction House Gavel? Do we think that this... I mean, it's essentially like mana cheating, right? You're discounting the cost of, minions in your hand, not Galakron, by 1. So you're getting out that kind of influx of 4 and 5 drops out sooner in shaman decks. But do we think that that's worth giving up the like Whack-A-Null into Arid Stormer kind of beautiful curve there in the Galakron shaman decks?
I'm leaning towards yes, because I'd rather, like, cheating mana is cheating stats, and so one requires you to have a board, the other doesn't, so I would lean more towards that one, and one's cheaper than the other, so I think I would run this in like the Galakron shaman deck, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, it's super close. I think Whack is probably better just because of how much more cleanly it curves. So I think Whack is probably better in that deck. But, mana cheating, great. I think, like, Reno Shaman is probably a lot keener on this than the Whack, right? Like, this is the more preferred weapon, I think. And at least, like, it gives you really good reason if you want to be running Custodian. In Reno Shaman, this is like another really, really great option. But yeah, just really solid card all around.
All right, let's talk about Canal Sloggers. 4-mana 6/4 elemental with Rush, Lifesteal, Overload 1. I feel like I was just talking about how it feels like Galakron Shaman's only weakness is it can get burnt out by stuff like Secret Mage and like the aggro Demon Hunter list. Like, you just don't have good healing available in Shaman, and then they go and print this 4-mana 6/4 elemental with Rush and Lifesteal. This card's just like good. Like, yeah. It's pretty damn good in a wide variety of decks, not even just Galakron Shaman, but I'm excited for it.
It's a lifesteal fireball onto the board. Like, yeah, I want to play this card.
It does pair very well with our next card. We've got Granite Forgeborn, 4-mana 4/5 elemental, Battle Cry. Reduce the cost of elementals in your hand and deck by 1. Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about Granite Forgeborn.
Same thing. I just want to play this card. Like, I'm considering the possibility that maybe you just start leaning more towards a mid-rangey all-out elemental shaman with these cards. Maybe you cut the Galakron, because like, do you need the rush stuff if you have Canal Slogger? Do you need like the top end if you're cheating out so much mana with some of these cards? I don't know. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure if Granite is better or good enough in the Galakron deck, but it definitely does push that elemental pure like mid-rangey type deck. It makes cards like Ragnaros and Kalamos a lot more acceptable. You can build like a deck that is basically nothing but elementals and the weapon. And so it sort of opens up a thing where it's like reduce the cost of your elementals by 1, the 2-drop that's like 2-mana 1/1. You can start getting basically a full hand of discounts like that. And so, yeah, it's pretty nasty. I definitely think we could get a real Curvestone deck. I even wonder, like, whether if you run that kind of deck... No, you always run Ice Fishing. I was about to say, like, maybe you don't run the Ice Fishing package, but no, you always run Ice Fishing. Yeah, you always run Ice Fishing, yeah. But no, definitely it can be a real deck.
Dude, I actually, I'm not gonna lie to you. I had just been trying to figure out like what to cut from Galakron Shaman to shove all of this in. I never like entertained the idea of like just cut the Galakron. and run elemental like good stuff.
Yeah.
But like any reason to run my like diamond rag and golden calamus, like sign me up, dude. I'm gonna try out this elemental shaman. Like sounds like a lot of fun. Like I don't know, dude. I feel like we haven't like a before Primal Dungeoneer. I feel like we didn't have that mid-rangey deck in the format, and now we have like all the mid-rangey shaman decks, and I love it, and I'm excited.
The only thing I would fear is that it feels like Elemental Shaman and Standard would be getting very close to nerf worthy at this point. They got some amazing cards, and it just starts to feel like it's all coming a bit too cohesive. Like I'd be nervous about it. If you're a Shaman main, maybe you had like a pretty good 2 months or something, but we'll see.
I mean, bright side though, I'm okay if these. I mean, I'm not really gonna be okay. I'm gonna complain about it when they do eventually get nerfed. But then you think about it, like they're printing these, and they'll unnerf some of them, right? When it comes to rotation, so we get to play with it eventually.
Yeah, 2023. Let's go.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, never mind. Don't nerf that, please. All right, let's talk about some Warlock support cards. Let's talk about Bloodbound Imp, 2-mana, 2/5 demon. Whenever this attacks, deal 2 damage to your hero. So this is something that was teased at like the very beginning, like in that trailer video, and then we like never really got confirmation of what the card was until now. How are we feeling about Bloodbound Imp in like a demon package? Right, we talked a lot about Shady Bob and its potential power in the format. We have Canrethed. We have that Expired Merchant Hand Gul'dan draw engine. How are we feeling about Bloodbound Imp? Do we think it's like enough? It's a pile of stats. It's a 2-mana 2/5. Do we think a pile of stats is good enough to force its way in something like Discard Warlock or even like a Demony Zoo?
I mean, is one extra stat over like a Homunculus worth? I think that like Vulgar Homunculus has fallen out of favor quite a lot lately because it's just like piles of stats on turn 2 aren't quite enough. So even with the taunt, I don't know. You're probably taking more damage from this as well, if I had to guess, because you would rather this attack 3 times.
This curves. I'll say this curves really, really nicely with Blood Fury Potion. The 3-mana +3/+3.
It's
Attack
definitely a
for
high
5/8.
quality card. I just don't know if it's good enough.
I mean, it's probably just not good enough when Dark Lair exists, right? Like, if you're gonna you're not taking advantage of that deal 2. You're taking advantage of the 2/5 demon tag,
Right.
and if we're not convinced by the stats, it's probably not good enough, right?
I mean, it's a lot of stats. I'm pretty convinced. I think
You like it?
2-mana 2/5 is filthy. Yeah, it's so much.
Are you running this in Discard Warlock? You're probably running in just like a good old demon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with Warlock when it comes to this aggressive stuff, right? Like, it's hard to build something that feels like it maximizes the Shady Bartender, which we'll get to, while also like fitting in enough discard synergy. And you probably want to be playing Dark Lair because Dark Lair is a great way to flood the board with demons as well, and it has natural synergy with things like Blood Imp or Bloodbound Imp. So it's kind of difficult exactly what you want to do, but I think whatever you do. This is probably going to be finding a home if you do go down that Bartender Dark Lair route.
All right, and we only have. I mean, we've talked about Bartender already in the previous week's episode, so make sure you guys check that out.
Oh.
But we're only going to talk about one other Warlock card today, and it's going to be Entitled Customer. I'm really high on this card. Let's read it. 6-mana 3/2, Battle Cry. Deal damage equal to your hand size to all other minions. So this is like a 6-mana Twisting Nether, potentially, if you're in Even Lock. Or maybe even in Reno Lock. It's a way for Reno Lock to deal with Dark Lair boards that bypasses Lothab. I really like this card. I don't know how you guys feeling about it. Am I the only one that is high on this customer?
To me, it looks like another Keldon the Breaker, but the benefit to it is that you can actually hold it in hand, so it's got a little bit more upside than that. But I don't know. I'm not as high on it as you are, but I like if an even Reno Lock becomes worth running, then maybe. But I don't know that you would run an even Reno Lock over just a regular Reno Lock.
So I think this card is super super good. I don't know if it's very good in Reno lock specifically because I don't think that deck actually carries the hand size that people might imagine. Usually it's a little bit smaller in hand size, but at the same time, like, look, how many cards do you really need to be hitting for this to be good? Like, I think as a 6 mana 3/2, if it just like deals 4 onto the board a lot of the time, that's still pretty solid, right? Like that's still fine.
That's
Um,
slightly better than Arcanosaur. Like, I think we need. I think you're looking
You,
at like
you, you
five or
think you
six.
think
Right?
deal four as a baseline is that bad? Like it's like a mana cheaper than a flame strike of sorts. Like it's not ideal, but
Flip
I think
Strike's
it's
dealing 5
fine.
nowadays, dude, and that's still not
Yeah, but
saying good.
nowadays I'm an old
Yeah.
flame strike. But still, like I think that's fine as a baseline, especially when you look at some of the higher upside, right, where you are being able to clear off giants. So I think it's probably not as good in Reno lock, but solid, and then super busted in like the Reno even lock, which you say I'm not sure if you want to run that, but I mean. You're beginning to get to the point where you're not missing out on that much. Um, you have a lot of options available now in the Reno version, of the even version of Reno Lock. Um, there's a couple like there's a neutral demon in particular that I think helps out that archetype a ton.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Spoilers,
But
spoilers.
yeah, I mean, speaking of spoilers, I'm really high on the title customer. I think it's going to be one of the better cards from this set. I I know you don't imagine it maybe in Renalock, but I do. I think it's fine in Renalock, especially if you're happy with dealing 4. I think it definitely fits in Renalock, right? I was thinking like Renalock. I think especially in like Evenlock and Reno Evenlock, you're very consistently going to have like this dealing 7 or 8 damage. In
Hmm.
Renalock, I think you're going to consistently be having it deal 5 or 6, right?
Which is great.
Which is great, which means that I like
Yeah.
absolutely love this card and I think it's going to be really really good. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm kind of scared if this like means that Renalock has a way to deal with Dark Lair, because that means we're going to be seeing a lot more dark Renalocks, and that means we're going to see a lot more Ticketuses and Mutanuses, and that's going to be a very fun meta. But I digress. Let's talk about Warrior. We're actually making pretty good time for as many cards as we're talking about today. Hope I didn't just jinx us. But let's talk about this Warrior quest. I'm sure I did just jinx us. But Raid the Docks, Warrior quest. Questline, play 3 pirates. Reward, draw a weapon from your deck. Part 2 of the quest, create a distraction. Questline, play 2 pirates. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy twice as your reward. Secure the supplies, last part of the quest. Play 2 more pirates. Reward Captain Rokara. Captain Rokara is a 5 mana 7/7 pirate. Battlecry, summon the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is one of those like irremovable minions, right? Sort of like the Dark Imp portal, whatever it's called. But the Juggernaut, at the start of your turn, summon a pirate. All right, so I think this is a random pirate, right? Not one from your deck. Summon a pirate. Equip a random warrior weapon, and fire 2 cannons that deal 2 damage. Okay, there's a wide variety of questions, right, that gets brought up when you see a pirate quest. We're gonna go ahead and say our spiel that we normally do, where we're like, we don't like quest in like purely aggressive decks, right? So probably not a fit in Pirate Warrior. Okay, I'm always gonna put the caveat of probably because you never know. But I will say, I made a meme, like a joke. I made a joke last expansion, Forged in the Barrens, and I was like, damn, dude, we're getting so many pirates. Do we ever run like Reno Pirate Warrior? And like unironically, I built this on my stream yesterday. Like we theory crafted some Reno Pirate Warrior, and it like, I'm telling you guys, it looked like a real deck. Like it looked good. Like Reno Pirate Warrior might be like a legitimate deck.
As someone who's played Reno Pirate Warrior before, I can assure you, it's not. You really want the consistency of the strong pirates, like, and you don't really get that much benefit from healing for 30, nor like if you're running Reno Pirates, like the benefit is Zeph most of the time.
I mean, that's a good card, and like your pirate quality. We're getting a lot of new pirates in this expansion. Like our quality is not going. Like it's not going down. Like the big deal is you missed out on 2 cannons, which I think is the big deal, right? Like missing 2 cannons does suck, but the rest of your pirate quality is like, it's not getting much worse. Like I think it looks good.
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued enough. I don't think it'll be as good as normal Pirate Warrior, obviously, but I do think the reward is kind of nutty.
The reward is so good, dude. The Juggernaut is like absolutely insane inevitability, right? Like just on its own.
Yeah.
It's so good.
All right. What about Odd Pirate Warrior? What about Odd Quest Warrior? Is that something that's crossed your mind yet?
Yeah.
Yep.
So what do you run? You have the 2 risky skippers. You can run 2 anchormans, right?
First mate.
Sky
mates.
Raider.
You can run Sky Raiders, and then there's the new 3-mana pirate that we haven't talked about.
Yeah.
The 3-mana 2/4 pirate that gains you armor. So, are we are we living in a day where we're like seriously considering stuff like Reno Pirate Warrior and Odd Pirate Warrior as like?
I mean,
potentially
it's
real
the question
decks?
of it's the question of how good is this compared to something like Doctor Boom, right? Because I don't think you're really necessarily looking to run both. And in terms of the inevitability against the decks that you need it against, so the more mid-rangey stuff, the more Reno decks, is it actually helping? I mean, random pirate, random weapon, deal 2 cannon. It's a lot, right? If you're something like Odd Paladin, you're never going to be able to... Usually, Odd Paladin has a really good time just, making Lothraxian minions over and over and over. Just, those Divine Shield dudes are annoying enough. This is sort of that inevitability that you completely beat the Odd Paladin in the, late game. So against a matchup like that, it definitely helps. How much does it help against Reno Lock? How much does it help against Reno Priest? LPG Mage? That I'm not 100% sold on.
It puts pressure on the Reno Priest, right? That's more that could be said than normal Odd Warrior. So, it probably helps your Reno Priest matchup, which is absolutely abysmal beforehand, right?
Yeah.
You don't seem convinced.
Roffle, what do you think?
I just think that none of those sound better than regular Pirate Warrior, and I don't know that I don't know that a quest in Odd Warrior even sounds better than regular Odd Warrior, but I'm willing to try, no matter what, because I just want to get I just want the Juggernaut. That's all I care about. I want to see this thing come down, and I want to start. The reason I was leaning towards Odd is not because I thought it would be good or it would be a good home for it. It's just that gives me, in my
More
mind,
Juggers.
the most turns with the Juggernaut on the board.
Yeah,
I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think about this as one of those Secret Mage versus Reno Secret Mage situations where Secret Mage is objectively the better deck in a vacuum, right? It's gonna have the higher win rate, but Reno Secret Mage in certain metagames, right? If you're queuing into specifically a lot of stuff like Pirate Warrior and a lot of Secret Mages, Reno Secret Mage can be a very, very good deck. It gives up percentages against some of the slower decks. I feel like Reno Pirate Warrior is in that same situation now, right? Or this Pirate Odd Warrior, whatever you want to run this quest in, where it's gonna beat up on a super aggressive metagame, like a lot of Pirate Warriors, maybe a lot of Secret Mages, stuff like that. And it has some inevitability against lower decks, but you're not gonna bash them in the face before Reno, right? Like you could with normal Pirate Warrior. But I think it's definitely something. I'm gonna be playing a lot of Reno Pirate Warrior. I think that's my day 1 deck. I built it and it looks sick. So I'm happy for it. All right, let's talk about some of the other pirate support pieces, though. Let's talk about Harbor Scamp, 2-mana 2/2 pirate, battle cry, draw a pirate. Proactive 2-drop pirate for Pirate Warrior. This card seems
just
nuts. Good. Yeah, seems
Yeah,
really good. Let's talk about Cargo Guard, 3-mana 2/4 pirate. At the end of your turn, gain 3 armor. This card is nuts in Reno Pirate Warrior and Odd Pirate Warrior. In regular Pirate Warrior, probably not.
It might be worth considering just in regular Odd Warrior too, because it develops a body and gains you some armor. So you keep it in mind.
Do you like this over Evil Quartermaster in Odd Warrior?
Yes.
I like that lackey.
I mean, it's not immediate, right? So it doesn't work as well with something like Shield Slam. But yeah, I don't know. Armor's good. Tempo's good.
Yeah. Stormwind Freebooter, 3-mana 3/3 pirate. Battle cry, give your hero +2 attack this turn. Another just solid pirate, right? I don't know if it makes the cut as your top 30 cards in Pirate Warrior, right? I'm not sure if it does. I feel like it's maybe on the fringe. Harbor Scamp definitely slots in Pirate Warrior. I don't know about this.
Sounds close.
You know what this does slot into though? Reno Pirate Warrior and Odd Pirate Warrior.
God damn it.
Hey man, I'm telling you, I'm on board. All
We
right.
can just end it here.
All right. Next up, we have Cowardly Grunt, 6 mana, 6/2, Death Battle. Summon a minion from your deck. I mean, this is big warrior support. Nothing really else to say here. Big warrior getting a little bit of support. Don't know if it really pushes it significantly. All right, let's get into our neutral minions. Don't worry, guys, we're almost done. Let's start off with Entrapped Sorceress. 3 mana, 3/4, Battle Cry. If you control a quest, discover a spell. I mean, Reno Quest Mage support, right? That's very narrow deck synergy, but it fits in that deck. Do you guys have anything else to say about this, or am I just gonna like rush through these really quick?
Um, Generally, just like cards in your deck are better than cards outside of the game. So, like, I would rather just have a card that does something similar but draws me something from my deck.
I don't know. I feel like Reno Quest Mage that you need to discover those spells, right? Because you have to play them for the quest, and like in general, you're trying to play a lot of minions because of Book of Specters. So I like it in Reno Quest Mage. It's probably not bad in that deck. Um, I skipped a card. We're gonna go back to so then Encumbered Pack Mule, 2 mana, 2/3 Beast with Taunt. After you draw this, add a copy of it to your hand. I'm pretty high on this card. I mean, it duplicates itself if you want to hand buff it. If you're playing Even Luck, you draw into it. It fills your hand so that you get those cheaper giants while still getting to play a 2/3 Taunt. I mean, it's less than 2 mana for that Oracle of Elune, and it has Taunt for those Razormane Battle Guards, you know? I don't know. I feel like this card is cute, fills a lot of roles, doesn't seem obscenely, like, broken, right? But I think it's good enough to maybe see play in a lot of variety of decks. Like, do you run this in, like, Bolster Warrior maybe as well?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, you play this in Taunt Warrior for sure. It's a really good pickup for Taunt Warrior. In like pure hand buff Paladin, like something that doesn't go the Divine Shield, you might also consider it. And you know, you're pumping up the Reno Pirate Warrior. I think Reno hand buff Paladin is getting close to real at this point. I don't know. There's a lot of extra Sorry, I'm sorry, Roffle. Roffle, which terrible Reno deck do you want to start pushing at this point?
I mean, as somebody who, when in doubt, I just make it a Reno deck. I can assure you that as soon as you take a good deck and put a Reno package in it, you very often just end up making it worse. I think that like is with Secret Mage included, that there's very limited roles that deck plays. I think Encumbered Pack Mule though. I'm excited about it with the Razormane Battleground. I think recently we talked about the potential eventual upside for that card, and getting just 2 of them down for free that's a lot of big numbers early in the game.
That's such a good shout out. I also love the art on this, by the way. This might be my favorite art of the entire set. He looks just so grumpy. It's like amazing. Just amazing.
It's that Matt Dixon art, dude. He always nails it with the Hearthstone cards.
Agreed.
Absolutely love it. All right, let's move on. We've got Battleground Battlemaster, and this looks like a card straight out of Battlegrounds. Okay, it's a 5 mana 5/5. Adjacent minions have Wind Fury. I know that there has been some talk about this card. I am gonna go ahead and say that I think this card is really bad in every deck that's not the pure hand buff Paladin. I don't think you want this in Glare. I think it's very win more in a lot of other decks. I think you could take advantage of this in hand buff Paladin though. Because your minions are both beefy in hand and in board. But even then, it's like pushing it in hand buff Paladin. I'm not like 100% sold on it in there. But I'm really interested in like y'all's opinions about this card, because I know it's generating a lot of buzz. Maybe not for the right reasons, because a lot of people are like debating about it, right? Whether it wants to see play or not. So I'm interested in y'all's opinion.
I don't know. I could see it maybe in like a cheesy like Stone Tusk board charge combo in either Hunter or Paladin with a whole lot of buffs rolling. But that's not a good deck. I don't know. Like getting Wind Fury is again something that scales well with hand buffs, but like 5 mana minions aren't something that you want to be playing in hand buff that much. Is I guess my concern. So like the mana cost is limiting, which is good because it should be. But it does have the potential to be used as like a board control tool, as well as just slamming damage at the opponent's face. I don't know. I'm not sold on it, but it's one of the cards that I'm more likely, considering that I'm probably wrong on. But I don't know. I don't see spending 5 mana on this as better than just like locking a full board with a Loatheb or something in Dark Glare in particular.
Yeah, so it is like strictly better, right, than like Blessed Champion because it's the same basic effect, except you can double up on it potentially. Um, so it's kind of a question of like how much of an upgrade is that? You know, like how much better is it? How bad is Blessed Champion, and then how much better is this in a deck like Handbuff? I've seen again, like Mel said, a lot of buzz, like people wanting this in things like Odd Paladin, for example, because the idea is that you can Conviction and then play this and then go face for a little bit extra damage and stuff. I am not really sold on this, to be honest. It's not okay. So the thing is, it's not additional damage where you don't have board control, and you need to have like specifically big beefy stuff for it to be additional damage. It's also like even in something like Dark Glare, right? Even in something like Dark Glare, I'm not entirely sure if it's worth it compared to, you know, like you're already getting the POs and the TAMs, and often if those things have the ability to go face, you're kind of winning the games a lot of the time anyway. It does feel like the sort of an alternative to something like Zephyrus, but I'm not really a big Zephyrus fan anyway, in a deck like that. So I'm not entirely sure. I think it's very borderline, and like Roffle said, this is one of the cards that I definitely think I can see myself being very wrong about. Because the upside is immense, right? Like the situations where it's good, it's going to be really good. So I'm not entirely sure, but I lean towards it not being good enough to see play, you know, right now.
I see it as I think it's a neutral Bloodlust, and Bloodlust is not a good card. It does come with a body, but like, I don't know. Unless you're using it to swing the board. The only other place I could maybe see it see him play is in like a hand buff Rush Warrior, where you can use it to regain the board with some cheap Rush minions to like double trade down into something. But then it's still a lot of mana, and you would rather just not get behind in that deck, and maybe not running a 5 mana 5/5 that requires you to have a board advantage would help you stay ahead early in the game.
Yeah, 100% agree. Very controversial card. We'll come back to it in 4 months, right? When we're doing our recap on United and Storm. We'll see how good this card ended up being. All right, let's move on. We're getting close to the end, I promise. We've got Royal Librarian, so this is just a strict upgrade on Spellbreaker. So this is a 4-mana 3/4 Battlecry Silence Minion with tradable, right? So that tradable keyword on tech cards. This card alongside the Viper, like probably just like replacing your oozes and Spellbreakers. I don't know any deck that wants a Spellbreaker anymore. Maybe like Evenlock, but we'll get to that. But if you ever want a Spellbreaker ever again in the future, you're not running Spellbreaker, you're running Royal Librarian. Lady Prestor, 6-mana 6/7 legendary neutral minion. Battlecry, transform minions in your deck into random dragons. They keep their original stats and cost. So for example, how this is going to work is like if you're running a bunch of like 1 and 2 cost minions, and then you play a Prestor, you're going to have like a 1-mana 1/3 Malagos, right? It keeps the effect of Malagos, but it is a 1-mana 1/3. So there's some talk of like running a deck that's full of cheap minions, and you run Talon to draw into Lady Prestor. It feels like very much like a new Arc Villain Reform, like the Warlock legendary card. It feels very much akin to that. I'm going to be trying out some Silence Priest with like 2-mana 4/5s and 3-mana 4/8s with Talon and Prestor, so that you run like a 2-mana 4/8 Ysera or something like that. That'd be sick. And then you can always silence it for like the 8/8 body if you need to, right, to hit face, like if it's like an Onyxia or something. But yeah, I mean, this just feels like Arch Villain Reform. It's going to be some nice meme goodness for that Roffle YouTube, but I'm really struggling to find like a competitive outlet for Lady Prestor.
It doesn't need to be competitive.
Yeah.
It is the free card as well, so it's good that they give such a fun free card. Plus, you know, we all thought she was a dragon. Turns out in reality, ogre.
Oh no. All right, next up, this is the card that Corbett and I think are both super, super high on. I don't know if Roffle is. I haven't heard your opinion about this card, but this is Moarg Forge Fiend. 8-mana 8/8 demon. Taunt. Death Rattle. Gain 8 armor. This is kind of like on the same level as like Enhanced Dreadlord. So yeah, this card's really, really good in your Warlock decks. I don't know if you run this outside of your Warlock decks for your new Zoth, but like Void Color decks, Skull decks, yeah, you absolutely love to see this. Your Even Lock decks, if you're running that Even Reno Lock, running that Blood Reaver Gul'dan, that 8-mana Demon, you love to see that. So it's got a very specific home, but I think it's a very, very strong card in those specific homes.
Yeah, I think even outside of those homes, it's very good. I think I'd run this in LBG Mage. I see it as not quite at the same level, but almost a Scrapyard Colossus, in that it's a neutral minion of a specific type that's super defensive. So I think a lot of like Reno or non-Reno new Zoth decks in particular really want this card. And then on top of that, it's also got Death Rattle, so it works with your old N'Zoth, and so it's just like it fits into that so well. So if you're playing a slower deck with those as your top end, you're playing this card, and like it's neutral, so everybody gets it.
Yeah, I also think shout outs to like the big rogues and the big shamans out there. Like you might also want to consider running this card as well.
The problem with Big Rogue in particular is the Death Rattle could potentially cause some complications depending on how that's built now.
Yeah, oh, that's true. But yeah, I mean, just in general though, really, really solid card, really, really strong. Look, make sure you don't dust these, all right? Keep them around. And then we've got Goldshire Knoll. 10 mana 5/4 with Rush. Why are we talking about a 10 mana 5/4 with Rush? Because it's never going to cost you 10 mana, because it costs one less for each other card in your hand. So we've been talking a lot about Evenlock and Reno Evenlock support. Just another tool for the toolbox. This comes out on turn 2, turn 3, right? And Evenlocks allows you to fight for board, leaves behind a body. Big fan of this card. And again, a very specific deck, but it's a very, very strong card in those decks.
Agreed. Yeah, like you're never paying anywhere near 10 mana for this.
Yep. All right, and last but not least, we're going to talk about this lowly 1 mana 1/3 Stockades Guard. 1 mana 1/3 Battle Cry, give a friendly minion taunt. The only reason I want to bring this up is I think it might see play. A lot of those Dark Glare Warlocks that are running Zephyrus, they run Sunfury Protector to taunt up giants, and you potentially consider this card over Sunfury, so that it's a 1 mana 1/3 that gives other stuff taunt, but most importantly, it still gives you giant taunt, because that's all you really care about, right? So just keep that in mind. And with that being said, we have made it through United in Stormwind. We've done it. We've gone through all the playable cards. So before we dive into our last part of the podcast here, initial impressions, man. We've seen all the cards now. What are your impressions about United in Stormwind?
For me, it seems like the best combination of what appears to be relative strength. So we're going to see a lot of impactful cards, with also some interesting mechanics. So even though they did bring quests back, they did it in a different way. And then on top of that, cards like Lady Prestor and things like that, or the Masquerade Rogue card. These are things that are like, we've never seen anything like it before in not only Hearthstone, but card games. So I'm really high on this set. This is the most excited I've been for an expansion in a very long time.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent set. It's so weird. Like, there are so many just weird cards to evaluate in this set. Everything feels very creative for the most part. So yeah, I really, really like it. Probably my favorite since Scholarmance, I would say. In terms of like the pre-expansion stuff. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Really think that even if it's not readily apparent, I think there's a lot of stuff here that could definitely significantly affect Wild. And we'll have to see how it pans out.
Yeah, you ready for my hot takes? I did a card review right after seeing these cards on stream, and I did a count. Out of the 135 cards that we saw, I considered over 50 of the cards playable in the Wild format, and about 30 to 35 of them as like good cards, like in good decks, playable. So I think this is, this is obviously without actually like playing any of the cards, right? But
Yep.
like, it looks like there was a lot of really, really good stuff. And like you said, this feels like Scholarmance Academy 2. It's giving me those vibes. Lots of really, really cool cards. Lots of really, really powerful cards. And some like new archetypes like on top of everything, right? It's not just like new cards that are slotting in existing decks. We're getting Razzle Hunter. We're getting Shadow Priest. Well, we're getting Elwyn Boar, right? Priest or Hunter. I mean, I'm just an archetype. We're getting Reno Pirate Warrior. We're getting back
Yep.
Evenlock. Like new archetypes that are getting pushed, which is really, really exciting. So I'm really hyped for the set, and I really hope it doesn't I hope it doesn't, crash and burn, right? Like, I hope it's actually good cards, but I also hope it doesn't pull a Forged in the Barrens where all the cool stuff gets nerfed because it's too powerful. So I hope it's somewhere in that middle ground. All right, so all of that being said, this is a review show, okay? Which means we have to do our thing. We have to record this part of the show so that we can come back in 4 months and judge one of the three of us or all three of us really, 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 really harshly. All right, so these are our predictions for United and Stormwind. So we're gonna go ahead and start off with what we think are the top 5 most powerful cards from this set. All right, Roffle, you want to go first?
Sure. At number 5, this is kind of a hopeful for me personally, but I think it has some potential in Dark Bishop Benedictus. I just really think it's a cool card, interesting way to implement Shadow Priest that I wasn't anticipating, and the fact that we did so much effort to make Odd Mage a thing in the past, and it was still like a reasonable deck. This is a much smaller ask, so it's got some potential. At number 4, I have the combination of Rot Viper and Royal Librarian. I don't think that these are inherently these are inherently powerful. It's just a matter of whether or not they're necessary as a response to the metagame. I think that tradable on tech cards is pretty ridiculous, and so these cards have why would you run their counterparts if you can run these instead? I think I would even run or consider Shard of the Nuru in this conversation as well. That having that tradable effect on tech cards is just kind of nutty. Number 3, I had Moarg Forge Fiend, which is that 8 mana beefy taunt. Like I said, yeah, you want it in Warlock decks because it's got big numbers and a good death rattle, but I think you also just use it as your neutral demon because neutral demons are frequently something that are lacking for a lot of classes and shoring up their N'Zoth res pool. At number 2, this is maybe the one I'm the least confident about. I have Groat, and I think that there are a couple decks that could probably take decent advantage of this, both the Kingsbane and the other just all-out pirate aggro deck. Both of those draw through their deck incredibly quickly, and so it ends up being 2 mana deal 6 towards the end of the game. It's certainly not a card that you keep and want to shuffle early, but I don't know, big numbers going face. If you draw one of them, even it's comparable to an Eviscerate or what you would pay for the Wicked Stab, so I think it's reasonable. And the spells only cost 1 mana, so if you draw them off of Secret Passage, you can salvage some damage as well. And then best card of the set is Fire Sale, which I think is just again going back to the tradable concept. I think that Reno Mage just runs this. I think that Reno Mage is probably a fairly good deck at the moment, and the tradable allows you to manipulate your Tortolan timing a little bit better, as well as just actually have it when you need it. Then finally, got to give a quick shout out. The 0th best card of this set is absolutely Deck of Chaos.
Ah, shit. Damn. I gotta change my list now. We can't have too many cards overlapping. I've gotta change it. I was gonna be my number 1. Oh, well.
Yeah. It's just clearly too powerful.
Yeah, damn.
You won't let us live that down, will you? Ever.
Live what down, Meowth?
Well, we'll come back in 4 months, Roffle. Don't worry.
Yep. All right.
I see how it is. Corbett, you want to give us your 5?
Absolutely. Number 1, Deck of Ketno. Aim Shot is my 5th. I don't actually think Aim Shot really fits that many wild decks that are going to be that established right now, but I think it's so good in the decks where it's played that I kind of had to mention it. It's just overtuned, I feel like. So yeah, Aim Shot, the 3-mana Hunter, deal 3, then your next hero power deals 2 extra. At number 4, I had Harbor Scamp, the 2-mana 2/2 pirate. I think it's a very easy fit into Pirate Warrior and it's a very good card there. So very much approving of that one. Number 3, we had Alliance Bannerman, the 3-mana 2/2 Paladin minion where you draw a card and then buff your hand. Like we talked about when we did the review of the card, I think that this is just fantastic. You're just going to throw it in random Paladin decks. And it's going to be a big part of why Handbuff Paladin is probably going to be one of the best decks in the format. At number 2, we have Touch of the Nathrazim, the Warlock spell, 1 mana, deal 2 damage. If deal 2 damage to a minion. If it dies, heal for 4. I think this is just a nasty card in Darklair Warlock. I think like the fact that it's a very good card for the best deck in the format is enough to put it on my list. So we'll have that one there. And the number 1 card is Prismatic Jewel Kit, another Handbuff Paladin card. A 0-mana 0/3 weapon. Whenever you lose the Divine Shield, buff your hand. So I think that this card is going to really tip Handbuff Paladin a little bit over the edge. Especially it's going to push sort of Handbuff Paladins maybe into a different direction where there can probably be 2 different unique builds where it's like a Divine Shield version where you run Call to Arms and a whole bunch of stuff like that, which is the one I'm excited about, Bubble Paladin. And then there'll be the different version, like something that we've seen, this last expansion when it comes to the Handbuff Paladin. So yeah, Jewel Kit is my number 1. So a lot of options here. I had to cut a few honorable mentions, but happy with this 5 and happy to be 100% correct about every single card as per usual.
Yeah, Bodybuilder, is that you? I thought we invited Corbett to be on the podcast.
I don't look nearly that good, so
none of us do. It's okay. No. Didn't know we invited a Handbuff Paladin stan on the podcast though. I mean, for what it's worth, I will say in 4 months, one of us is getting laughed at least because I think all 3 of us had completely different top 5s. Like they are very drastically different. For myself, I had Dark Bishop Benedictus as like number 5, just because like I said, man, I felt trapped to the Shadow Priest bait. I'm a believer in the deck, but I also think that like he might be worth running in Reno Priest. I don't think that's something that we've talked about enough as like potential for Benedictus. We've jumped aboard the Shadow Priest train, but like what if we just make Shadow Priest Reno Priest and go that route? So I think Benedictus has a lot of potential. Moarg Forge Fiend, the 8-mana demon. I'm a Warlock guy. Even Lock, even Reno Lock, and Reno Lock all love the Forge Fiend. I'm going to be playing a ton of them. Number 3, I had First Flame. I'm also an LPG mage player, and I think this card is just nuts. Not only an LPG, but all the Sorcerer's Apprentice mage decks. Like, pretty much every deck other than, like, the Secret Mage deck probably runs First Flame. I think the card is that good. Number 2, I had Alliance Bannerman. Handbuff Paladin. I'm probably going to try this out in even Libram Paladin as well, just so that I can draw the minions, because that's, like, the big thing in that deck. And then I had Entitled Customer as my number 1 most powerful card. Kind of gave this away when we were talking about it during the card review, but I think this card is absolutely busted, specifically like as a potential answer to Darklair, right? Like if you give slower decks game into Darklair, like that's what's keeping stuff like Reno Lock and Evenlock out of the metagame, right? Evenlock has a little bit more problems than just Darklair, right? But Darklair is a big reason. And if you're giving it a strong tool to help combat Darklair, pretty excited about the card. I also had a ton of honorable mentions, like the Pirate, all of the Shaman cards, like the 4-drop Elementals, and then like Cornelius Rome. Pretty excited about that one as well. So lots of powerful cards. It was really hard to narrow down to 5. But now let's take a little bit of a different approach. Let's talk about our top 5 favorite cards. So the cards that we're the most excited to play with. There totally could be some overlap here. Roffle, let me know what your top 5 favorite cards. What are the first 5 YouTube videos we're getting from you from the new expansion?
I don't know if these will be the first 5, but I want to start with Jace Darkweaver just because I know it's not going to be good right now. I'm forward thinking. This is a futurist Roffle. I know that like inevitably they're going to print some better Fel spells. We saw some released that we didn't talk a whole lot about today, but like there are some new Fel spells that were released that are decent. The problem I have with this card right now is that it doesn't end the game, and so there's no real way to close things out after this. But it often will be 8 mana, clear the board, heal up a bunch. So I think it's fine. It'll be fun, and in the future this will be something that I look forward to jamming and maybe even copying with a Baleful Banker. Next up, though, I have Defend the Dwarven District. That is Razzle Hunter. I just I want to try something old, but like in a new class. So like, why not? And like I've talked about earlier on in the episode, I like that Kolkar pack runner plus Starving Buzzard. I think what it was missing is a way to close out the game, and hopefully this helps shore that up. Third, I have Maestra of the Masquerade. Just because I want to do Rogue Renounce Darkness, like just search up my my Wormrest Purifiers and get going with that. And when I'm changing classes, I'm not looking back. So whatever I'm stuck with is what I'm playing. Second up, I have Dark Bishop Benedictus because I just love this card. I'm so excited that it's one of the diamond cards because like Samura's cool and all, and like who is Brukan, sure, why not? But like I want a card that I'm actually going to play. I understand that like the point of Benedictus isn't to play him, but at least he'll be on my deck and I'll feel better about it. And then finally, Owen Boar, because I just really, ever since the South Park episode era, I've always wanted to wield the Sword of a Thousand Truths myself, and now I finally get the chance.
I can't believe that Benny is not your number one choice. Like, I get the hype behind Boar, but I'm very surprised that Benny is not even your first choice. Like, I feel like we should take away your Diamond Benedictus for that. Like, you don't deserve it.
He got overtaken. It's not my fault.
Oh my goodness. I still haven't watched the episode, by the way. Don't hate me. Corbett.
Oh my god, meow. Jesus. Well, my number 5 is also the Boar, so now I just feel bad about that. Yeah, Elwyn Boar number 5. I went already pretty hyped on the last show about it, so I don't need to stick around too long on this one. Number 4, Lady Presta. I think there's a little like fun memey stuff you can do. We've kind of already outlined it. It's just a fun card. I'm excited to play it in a whole bunch of stuff. Number 3, Benedictus. Kind of most looking forward to this in the Reno Priest. I genuinely think that could be a very worthwhile route for the Reno Priest archetype. And something I'm looking forward to. I also the art, dude. Did you say the diamond art? Like the animation looks so good compared to the some of the previous diamond animations. So
yeah, they upped their game. It looks so good.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Too. Yeah, it's I don't even use like alt art, but I might have to make an exception here. Number 2, I had Hot Streak. I'm a degenerate mage gamer, and Hot Streak allows me to get out more apprentices by cheating mana, which then allows me to cheat mana. And I love cheating mana. So yeah, Hot Streak feels great. And the number 1 card that I had was the Defend the Dwarven District Hunter quest. Massive fan of Starving Buzzard and Kolka Pack Runner. And the Hunter quest looks really sick. It looks like I get to do something that I never really thought I'd be able to do in Hunter. It feels fresh, but also makes the best use potentially out of the shell that makes me the most happy in Hunter. And so I'm very excited about this one, and definitely going to be the thing that I try first. And hopefully, I won't just stop trying it after day 1. That's the intent.
Well, that would be the dream, right? That it actually is like sort of viable. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So for my top 5, I had to include Peasant somewhere, right? Because this is one of the like more controversial cards, and like this is going to be me. Like Corbett called a shot with the watch post last time. He was super confident and put it number 1. I'm not that confident. All right, I'm gonna leave it at number 5. But I think Peasant in Odd Rogue and Odd Demon Hunter, like, I feel like we just stopped talking about it once we like had other stuff to talk about, like other cards and other news. But I still think Peasant in those decks, like, I really have completed this transformation into Corbett, where like I love me my aggro decks now. I really do. And like giving my aggro decks draw, like, God, I love that even more. So I'm really hopeful that Peasant's going to be good. Just because I want those, like, I want Odd Demon Hunter to have more consistent draw. Like, I really do. And if it's good, it's going to make the deck a lot better. So I'm hype on Peasant, but I'm not confident in Peasant. So we're going to leave him at number 5, okay? And then number 4, I had Bolner, the 2-mana Bran for Shaman. I mean, I've been playing a ton of Shaman. Like, he probably fits in that elemental shell we're talking about, right? Like, because all of the elementals have battle cries anyways. So, I mean, really excited to do some dumb things with Bolnir, whether it's trying to pull off some combos that people have found with Mailbox Dancer and some shenanigans, or just like shoving him in like good stuff Shaman decks. Number 3, I had the Dark Bishop Benedictus for both Shadow Priest and Reno Priest. I don't really need to talk too much more about that because we've talked about him a lot. We've also talked about Razzle Hunter, which is my number 2. I'm just excited to shoot people in the face with Dragon's Bane. I think that's the part that I'm the most excited about. Like, Starving Buzzard Pack Runner is nice, but like, is there a better feeling than like having your Dragon's Bane activate like 6 times in one turn? Like, I don't think there is. And then number 1 for me, for those of you guys that watch my theory crafting stream, I was literally shoving this guy in every deck. I was literally shoving Cornelius Rome in every deck that was like, I don't know what the 30th card is going to be. This deck looks like it needs more draw. We just like shove Cornelius Rome and everything because he just draws a lot of cards. He's like that mid-rangey guy, right? He's the king of the mid-range decks. Those are the decks that I'm enjoying right now. So hopefully he lives up to the hype that I'm putting on him. I hope this is not another Maiev situation where I like crafted Maiev Gold on day 1 because I was convinced it was going to be so good and then it like absolutely fluked. Hope Cornelius Rome is not that. I hope he's actually good. But I'm pretty excited for him, just to like at least give some sort of life to mid-range decks in the format, give them a little bit of refill, and hope he lives up to that. So a little bit different than you guys, but I think it just like highlights the different playstyles of the 3 of us, right? All right, and then last but not least for today, let's talk about our favorite decks, like the 3 decks that we're going to be trying on day 1. And I feel like those of you guys that have listened all the way to the end of this 2-hour podcast episode already know where all 3 of us are going with these. But Roffle, what are the 3 decks that you're looking forward to trying out first?
All right, so day 1, it's going to be a toss-up between aggro Shadow Priest, so I can use Benedictus, or an Elwyn Boar Priest, so that I can summon the Sword of 1,000 Truths. I'm not entirely sure which route I'll go, but one of those 2. Following that, probably a Raza Token Hunter, because like we've talked about, it just seems like a really fun deck. I want to blast my opponent repeatedly while drawing a bunch of cards. And finally, I do want to try out the Ignite Mage. I'm sure it'll be worse than Mizaki, but I don't know. There feels like something satisfying about just playing the same card over and over again while incrementing its damage as you're doing it. It just feels like a satisfying way to win. And like Corb, I do enjoy those degenerate mage decks from time to time.
Corbett, you're gonna rub off on another co-host here. Like, don't do it.
Part of the plan. All part of the plan. Once I get Roffle playing Secret Mage, that's when my job will be accomplished. But something that I actually am going to be playing when the expansion launches is, of course, Quest Hunter. Quest Hunter is the one that I'm probably the most hyped for. I think Bubble Paladin is another deck where I think Bubble Paladin, like hand buffing, kind of like Call to Arms hand buff Paladin, aka Bubble Paladin. I think that's the deck that is most likely to be one of the best decks in the format that has new cards. So really looking forward to that one. And the last one is sort of Quest Mage stuff. Like, I don't even know what to call this, but like whether it's Ignite Mage, would I throw an Ignite in there or not? I just want to, cheat out apprentices and play Evocation. And I'm assuming that I'm going to be doing that with an Open the Way gate on turn 1. So that's the plan. Just try and complete the quest by turn 3 or 4. Just win the game somehow. I don't know. I'll random my way into a victory. It's fine.
Nerf the girl. My 3 decks, Razzle Hunter, I don't really need to say too much more about that. Evenlock or Reno Evenlock. God, it's been such a long time since I've played these decks, and I miss them, and they're getting so much support. Love it. Gonna play a ton of it. And then last but not least, gotta play that Reno Pirate Warrior. Man, we gotta play that Reno Pirate Warrior. I'm gonna do it. I don't even care. You guys are gonna have to deal with this for the next 3 or 4 weeks until I finally realize and accept that it's bad.
No. It won't be that long. It won't be that long.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's gonna be like 2 days, and I'm like, nope, shelf this one for the next expansion. It'll be a real thing next expansion, Copium, you know. But yeah, I mean, then obviously, like, honorable mention to the Aggro Shadow Priest, right? But yeah, so that's gonna be it for our super long, you know, review episode, and that's probably gonna conclude our United in Stormwind, you know, content, right? Because the expansion's coming in like less than a week. Next week we're gonna have had the expansion for 4 days, and we're gonna already like be talking about what's good and what's not. So that's gonna wrap it up.
We're gonna have to decide what card is gonna be banned. Of course, Meowth.
Yeah, which card are we gonna, you know, as a community complain about for the next month? That's the game plan here. It's probably still gonna be Dark Glare, but who knows? But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for us. Let us know down in the comments below what decks, what cards you're the most excited, what you're the most scared about, and how impactful you think the expansion is going to be. We want to know your thoughts. Let us know down in the comments below. And of course, make sure you guys tune into all of the streams. We're all going to be streaming on Expansion Day and probably all week. So make sure you guys check out our Twitch streams if you want to check out some of the action live. And speaking of Roffle and Corbett, where can they find your Twitch streams and all your other content?
You can find me on Twitch and YouTube at Roffle, and Twitter and Instagram at RoffleHS.
And you guys can find me at Corbettgames on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube. Actual YouTube content that has come out.
Nice. You can find me at GetMeOut on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube as well. And of course, if you guys want to talk about deck lists and decks and cards, you can always join our podcast Discord server as well. Roffle and Corbett look like they want to get out of here, and you guys probably want to as well. We've been streaming for a long time. We appreciate all of you guys for tuning in all the way to the end. We hope you guys enjoy the brand new expansion. Have a good one.